All right. Yeah. All right.
All for appropriate
Okay. Is that okay?
growth.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
when we keep
Yep, she's good with that. You need to ask that. I need my glasses. I can't see.
we at the end of the day cutting off. Oh, we heard.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 14th, 2025 City of Aiken Planning Commission meeting. Thank you all for being here. You can take your seats. We'll try to get this show on the road. I'm going to read the guidelines for public comments for the City of Aiken Planning Commission meeting. Some of you are familiar with this, but for those who are not, please listen carefully. These meetings are public forums in which many opinions are expressed and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, disciplined, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is required. During public comment periods of the meeting, all questions and statements from the public shall be directed to the chairman. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address the commission, speakers should limit their comments to the agenda item with the application being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from the commission are posed to the speaker. So, we're going to have a timer up here. Everybody gets 5 minutes. Folks, we do have a loaded agenda tonight. We have 15 applications. I know everybody wants to speak on certain applications, so please be respectful for those who are at the bottom of the docket tonight. Try to keep your comments concise and to the point, and be respectful of others. If you get to 4 minutes with a minute left, I'll raise my hand so you can wrap up your comments. Okay, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes. So I'm going to ask the Commission to entertain the minutes from December 10th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval and a second. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand. I'm recusing myself from the vote because I was not at that meeting. Okay, our next, we don't have any old business. Our next item of new business is the election of officers of this commission for the 2025 year. We have to elect a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary to be elected at this meeting. Commission, do I have a motion for?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make 3 motions, if I may. They have to be separate. I'd like to adopt you, Ryan Reynolds, as the chairman. I will need a second for that. All in favor?
Okay, motion for me to be the chairman. Second, can I vote against it?
No.
All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Looks like you got me for another year.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to recommend as vice chairman Charles Matthews.
Okay, we have a motion for Mr. Matthews and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Commissioner Matthews for vice chair.
And then, Mr. Chairman, as secretary, I ask Maria Moultrie as our secretary.
All right, a motion for Ms. Moultrie as the secretary and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Erb. Okay. Our next item B, this is application number 25-20013. This is an annexation request for tax parcel number 106-07-15-007. This is over 1109 Conger Drive, which is currently in the county under residential single-family conservation, and they're asking to come into the city under RS-15 single-family. Do I have a motion? Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of this application? Any of those opposed or for this application? Any comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application 25-20013, annexation request tax parcel 1060715-007, I make a recommendation we move this to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Stevens and a second from Commissioner Matthews. Discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Okay, item number C. This is application number 25-20014. This is an annexation request. Tax parcel number 106-07-13-006. This is on 1112 Conger Drive. They are currently in the county under single-family conservation, looking to come into the city under RS-15 residential single-family. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this tonight? Any of those for or against this application? Comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to application 25-20014, annexation request for tax parcel 106-07-13-006, current zoning RSC, proposed zoning RS-15, I make a motion that we move to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion for approval, Commissioner Clarkson, Commissioner Erb, second. Discussion from the commission. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. All right, application number, item D, application number 25-20015. This is an annexation request for tax parcel number 106. Folks, please silence your phones so we can get through this meeting. Thank you. Application number 25-20015, annexation request, tax parcel number 106-07-15-006. This is also on Conger Drive under RC Conservation in the county, and they are asking to come into the city under RS-15. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this tonight? Any of those for or against this application or any comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application number 25-20015, annexation request, tax parcel number 106-07-15-006, current zone RC, conservation, proposed zoning RS-15, single family. I move that we send this to City Council, and there are no possible conditions.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Matthews for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, was that Commissioner Erb?
Yep.
Commissioner Erb, second. Discussion from the commission. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Item E. This is application number 25-20016, annexation request for tax parcel number 106-18-18-013. This is at 1424 Moultrie Drive in the same neighborhood. They're in the county as residential single-family conservation, looking to come into the city as residential single-family. Is the applicant here to discuss this application tonight? Any of those who are for or against this application? Any comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application 25-20016, annexation request for tax parcel 106-18-18-013, current zoning RC, proposed zoning RS-15, I make a motion that we move to City Council for approval.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Clarkson for approval and a second by Commissioner Matthews. Discussion from the commission. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous.
And Mr. Chairman, on this application F, I will recuse myself at this time.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Matthews. Remind me to get him after.
I will.
What's the problem? Okay, next item, item F. This is application number DES 24-01-001. This is for tax parcel number 121-06-16-001. This is a proposed historic designation amendment for the Friendship Baptist Church. They're located over on Kershaw and Richland. Their current zoning is downtown business and the overlay, and they're in the old Aiken overlay. This particular application, they're currently under a landmark historical designation, and they're looking to amend that to landmark for the sanctuary, contributing for the parsonage, and non-contributing for the activity center. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this application tonight?
Yes, my name is Kimberly Tony. I reside at 623 Edgery Street. In your packet, I would like for you to look at the application, but also in your packet there's a letter from the Friendship Baptist Church Board of Trustees Chair. The very last statement says that Kimberly Tony will serve as the representative, and that is myself.
You are representing the church board.
That is correct.
For this
and also
application.
The applicant for this item.
Okay, well, you'll summarize what you're looking for.
At this time, what we have is the Friendship Baptist Church, and this is noted, has several different locations. The church, as you see on the screen there, the church, which is also 158 years, is located on the Richland Avenue, and also our educational building is located on Richland Avenue. The white building that you see is what was originally as our parsonage, is now being used as our admin building, faces the Kershaw Street side, and therefore it has two different addresses. So for anyone that has any questions about that, that's why it has two different addresses. And the tax parcel number is what you see there listed. What we're asking for, originally the Design Review Board received a request to take the parsonage / admin building and to relocate it, and it was stated that it was not historical. The only thing that we knew was historical was the sanctuary. And upon research of the Planning Commission, the Planning Department of the city was found to be historical, and we did not know that, part of the landmark designation, we did not know that in September 30th of 1994 that our church, as well as the city of Aiken, had deemed the city of Aiken and the administration and the design review, the city council at the time had designated it to be landmark designation through at that time in September 1994, and made it all one complex. Those three buildings were one Friendship Baptist Church complex. So we had to delay that request, and now we're asking for that designation to be amended. And just for simpler purposes, I'm just going to use this phrase: we're taking that complex and we're debundling it, and asking that those three buildings be separated. We continue to have the sanctuary be used as a historic landmark. We take the white building, as you see, which is a parsonage / admin building that we use it for. We ask that it will continue, it contributes, and we take the educational building, which is the building that you see shown with the handicap ramp right there in front, that we use that. And our application is showing that we have that as non-contributing. So we're asking that we break up those three buildings and have them stand alone, if you will. And that's our request.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission to the applicant at this time? Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask for any other folks in the audience that are for this application and want to speak on behalf of this application. Please raise your hand. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Pastor T.C. Edwards of the Friendship Baptist Church. I reside at 2001 Pheasant Creek Drive, Martinez, Georgia. I've been the pastor at Friendship for 20 years. We're asking for this redesignation because we're in a situation when we have 3 very old buildings. We don't have any handicap accessibility really other than a ramp. Restrooms, none of that stuff. The admin building, or used to be the parsonage, it's in pretty bad shape. We've had an engineering firm to come in and look at it. They've taken pictures, they've given us a cost. They even told us if they were to start just trying to raise one side of the building, that the walls may come down, the ceiling may come down. We've had a 2020 drive been going on for a little over 20 years. Our plan is to build a new multi-purpose facility, modernized, handicap accessibilities to serve the present age. The house will be relocated less than 1,000 feet from where it sits right now. And because if it's not, it's gonna sit and rot, and then we'll be coming back asking you to demolish it because it's in pretty bad shape. We've been informed by the insurance company that they're gonna drop the coverage on it. So once they do that, we're gonna disconnect all the utilities and board it up and put no trespassing. Then we gotta deal with people breaking in and getting in. We right downtown, right there by the park near the Salvation Army. So rather than allowing it to just sit and rot, it will be moved less than 1,000 feet from where it sits, and it will still be in the neighborhood. But we do not have the funds. We don't plan to put any funds in it because the funds that we have will be used to build the new multi-purpose facility for the church. This is nothing new. We've been working on this for almost 20 years. 20 years. The church has voted. The majority of the members voted in favor. We had 2 people that voted against it. We're a Baptist church. We're autonomous. Majority, and the majority voted to do this. And we have, like I said, 2 that voted against. I know we have an opposition from someone, and these ghost letters that people are writing saying that they're from the members of Friendship Baptist Church, but they're putting no names on them. I can do that. I could produce 20 of those from my computer. I think if people were going to write letters, they ought to put their names on them. You know, they ought to show up and represent who they are and not be a ghostwriter. Yeah. The church owns the property, and we're trying to move forward in doing the mission work that God has given us at the Friendship Baptist Church. So we're asking that you all would approve our request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to speak on behalf of this application? All right, do I have anybody here to speak against this application? Yes, ma'am.
Chairman, my name is Sharon White. I live at 2923 Tennessee Lane in Aiken. I assume you have reviewed all the past information submitted and spoken to about this situation that the Design and Review Board, going back to 1867 to this current date. I assume that you have read that. It has been stated to the Design and Review Board meeting on November the 4th, 2024, that according to information submitted for this application, explained the importance of the history for all to respect. Everything on the complex of Friendship Baptist Church has a significant, not just with the church, but with civil rights on the level as a community. Church members back then felt the importance of the community and the history of Aiken to apply for the complex as a landmark. As stated, brilliant people took the time to build on what is here today. The parsonage is possibly the only Black-built initiated building in the city of Aiken associated with the Schofield School. As you have read, this is not the same as what happened with St. Mary. We are here now. Young people today is our future, just like those young people in old before. Young people will not come just because you build a building. They will probably come more if they see a foundation, a landmark with a purpose to keep the dream alive. It should not have taken 19 years to decide to eliminate was better than preservation. There is no disrespect to some of the members wanting to make this change, but make sure all details about the change is on the table. The designation voting for the Design Review Board was 5-1. They denied that this should be done. As stated that is being given up, accomplishing a particular goal with all being involved, and they should be aware. Efforts have been made to give a private lecture to the Friendship Baptist Church congregation. Over 50 texts sent to let them know the history of what they did not know before this started taking place. I sent out an announcement for there to be an announcement for the church to know about this, what was being happening, so that they will know the history and what was involved. At the Design and Review Board meeting, we had a member who had to recuse himself because his involvement with this issue. As far as this application here, the person who is submitting this application should not be the one submitting this application, because that person has a vested interest in what goes on and has her name and company and documents that's going to profit from this going through. And that person should not be presenting this application to you. So with the presentation denied and attendance, you would think that members would come running to hear and be educated about the Friendship Baptist Church campus. It is not just a physical building, but a historical landmark. And I don't hear too much about that here as far as the landmark. I don't hear too much about what we're preserving here. You know, it's just that the reasons given, there's no reason. All right? 20 years is now you've decided, my time is up.
1 minute, please.
1 minute? Okay. All right. The parsonage and activity building is still being used today. As stated by the site visit by the Design and Review Board members, amazement of craftsmanship, architecture, and a powerful history which cannot be replaced. How do you build and name historical buildings and turn around and take them down? It was stated there are lots of architectural opportunities to keep the campus building together, keep the landmark. Also, if to somebody else, they can do whatever they want with it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming up and talking.
Okay.
Is there anybody else to speak against this application? Okay, any comments? All right. Oh, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Mandy Drumming. I'm at 412 Pendleton Street. I know this request is to change the landmark status of the parsonage as part of this complex to a contributing status. But even now, more than ever, that building, that parsonage, even on its own, I think could stand, but even with part of that complex is very architecturally, socially, and historically significant. I think you were given some of the information. We did actually an article that is appearing in the National Arts and Craft Collector catalog, which is in February, and the editor of that magazine actually reached out to me because she saw on social media kind of the attention we were trying to bring to the parsonage and its significance. So I won't go into that part because I want to be brief, but I do want to, out of the 60, this building was built by Schofield Craftsman. He was a carpenter, and then he was also a Friendship Baptist Church minister and member. And he was also built this building with the Schofield School, which is very close, and they held a close relationship. And Schofield was very much supported by Aiken Winter Colony. But out of the 60 years Schofield was in existence, it was a craft school. They did all kinds of crafts, woodwork, harness making, leather goods, blacksmithing. There is not one work by the school in a public collection. None are in the Aiken County Historical Museum. 60 years of production, not one is existent, but that parsonage is a representation of that. There are 2 other Schofield buildings. One's been altered. It doesn't look like what it did when it was built in 19th century. That's a perfectly intact specimen of what it was when it was built. And then the other one was moved. And when a building is moved, it can't be put on the National Register of Historic Places, and it can't get grants. Fermata just got a grant, because it is on the National Register of Historic Places, a planning grant for $45,000. So there are possibilities there. And out of the 21 landmark status buildings in Aiken, the 21, only 3 are Black associated. That's it. So this building is important. And it's not just an Aiken problem. Out of the 95,000 properties on the National Register of Historic Places in the nation, only 2 to 3% represent the Black experience. And there's a huge movement right now with lots of grant opportunities to try to present a more inclusive account of the African American contributions in Black humanity to America. So let's see, and I just make sure that, and I know St. Mary's was compared to this, but St. Mary's had 10 non-members reach out to designate this building, whereas the parsonage, it was actually a Friendship Baptist Church member. They were instrumental in preserving the one bell tower of Schofield on the property, which is one of the only, most all those Schofield buildings are gone. And then there's ample space on, I know they have plans, I know they already have plans drawn out, I believe, for the property on Friendship Baptist Church, but there is space. St. Mary's didn't really have space, and they actually wound up keeping their building and building new somewhere else. And all those buildings are still in use. So, I just hope the rules here are applied to everybody. Please think about your decision here, because who's the next person that owns a landmark status building that would want to move it or change it to contributing and their reasons, because then the next person can come and potentially do the same thing. And we just want to make sure that we're upholding the guidelines and applying them, to all of us who are part of this district. And I'm kind of tired of reading history books. It's just one type of history. I want to know all of history. I want to know all of Aiken, what happened here. The foundation isn't too far gone. It can be
1 minute.
It could be, there are grants, there are capital campaign efforts, fundraising. I'm not sure, any help, we would help with that. It really is, symposiums, articles. People love arts and craft movement. This building is in the style of American Arts and Crafts Southeast version. It's very unique in that essence, and it's very lucrative, highly sought after scholarship. But please allow this building to remain landmark status. It is one, and it's more now than ever important. So
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. There's no other comments, but the applicant, if you want to come rebut any. Okay. I'll give you an opportunity to speak based on the comments.
Kimberly Tony, 623 Edgery Street, and just to church clerk and also a member of Friendship Baptist Church, just to go on the record to say that we are well aware of our history at Friendship Baptist Church. We are incorporating our history. We understand our history of the impact of Schofield, Martha Schofield, and the impacts and the contributions that she made. We are also aware of grants. In August of 2024, we applied for the National Trust Historic Preservations of African American Culture Action Fund Preserving Black Churches grant. We were, however, denied, and the reason why it's very highly competitive, there are 691 churches that compete for $177 million, and we were denied. So we made the first round, we were denied. Just want to let everyone know that we are actively seeking ways to preserve what we have and to build on, but also to preserve what our history and to build on and protect and look towards our future, which is why we want to build a multi-purpose facility to go on and beyond for our legacies and future of our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and those within our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no more comments, point of clarification for this application. Who has the legal jurisdiction for this application for this church?
So the church actually submitted a section of their bylaws that stated that the Board of Trustees has the authority to represent the church in matters like this. And the Design Review Board, before they allowed the application to come to their meeting, had their legal counsel take a look at that, and they agreed that that was correct based on the information provided. And their Board of Trustees chairman sent a letter to myself stating that they would like to recommend this amendment and that they would allow Kimberly Toney to represent the church.
Thank you. Okay, so commissioners, on the application here, we're going to have to decide tonight how we want to move this application forward to City Council, whether we keep it all landmark or make any amendments there too. So with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to the application proposed historic designation amendment, application number DES 24-01001, tax parcel 12-06-16-00, I make
001.
001, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Erb. I make a motion that we move to City Council for approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Clarkson and a second for Commissioner Erb, and the motion is to approve this amended application going from the complete landmark to the parsonage being the contributing,
yes,
and the activity building and non-contributing.
Mm-hmm.
And the sanctuary remaining as landmark.
Yes, as written. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have a motion, second, and any other further discussion from the commission? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you. For those of you who are here for that application, if you want to excuse yourself, you may do so. We probably have some exciting things going on later. But we do need the seating, so if everybody could kind of squeeze, we have some folks who are standing who are here to speak on other applications, so if you could please quietly remove yourselves and squeeze so that some of these other folks can have seats, I would appreciate it. Okay. Moving forward. This is item G. This is a application number DES 25-01001. This is a tax parcel number 105-12-01-006. This is a application proposing to make a contributing structure historic designation for the Bostwick Hitchcock Stables that are located up on Lawrence Street, west of Highway 19, north of 525 Lawrence Street, southwest. The property owner is Charles Bostwick. Zoning is under residential single-family stable, and this is in the Historic Overlay District. This application is very similar to the one we just discussed. There is a property that has a structure on it that this applicant has applied for to have a historic designation on it. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on behalf of this? They're not. Okay.
She is.
Do I have anybody here to speak on behalf of this application? In other words, you support putting a contributing structure delegation on this property? Okay.
She got her hand in it.
All right. You would come forward? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Louis Rinaldini, 638 Magnolia Street. It's not clear exactly what your question was because you used on behalf, and so I'm not speaking on behalf of the applicant. I don't know if that was your question, but I am speaking in support.
That's what I'm asking.
Just briefly, federal law requires every state and municipality to preserve historic assets for obvious reasons. If a structure or a document is important to the history of the area, there's a public interest in preserving it. And that trickles down to the states and to the municipalities. And in the city of Aiken, it's governed by the City of Aiken zoning ordinance, which is why you are looking at this. And the zoning ordinance requires that if a historic structure is not designated, the DRB has an obligation to determine if that structure is contributing, and if it is not designated, to correctly designate it, it's obligated to fix it. So the problem arises here because when the surveys for designations to the Aiken Register were done, they missed the stables. So the DRB and you now have to correct that error. There's no question that the stables are historic and significant, which are the two important criteria for a contributing designation. There's also no question that this error should have been corrected earlier, but it wasn't, and it's creating an enormous inconvenience for the owner and the applicant and the potential purchaser. But there's nothing we can do to fix that. The other ironic thing is whether it's designated or not, the process for the DRB will be the same. They have to look at it and then determine whether it's contributing or not. That would be an improper process for a quasi-judicial entity, which the DRB is and you are, because they have to have findings of fact and conclusions of law to support their position. And how can you do that if you don't even know what the designation for the property is? Because this property is not changing designation. It was never designated. So it's a very difficult problem because it causes inconvenience for people. But the reality is, in a historic district, this property should be treated like every other property in that district. If you have a 1,000 square foot house in the historic district, you have to live with the historic district designations. And it's not appropriate to treat the owners of this property differently and exempt them from those obligations. So despite all the inconvenience that's being caused, the proper course for this commission and for the city, and probably the quickest course for the applicant to have their application processed for what they want to do on the property, is to have it designated and then have the DRB look at it with a proper designation and reach their conclusions. Because absent that, any of these decisions can be appealed. The DRB decision can be appealed, your decision can be appealed, the commission's decision can be appealed, because it's not following findings of fact and designations of law. The facts here, and I think you have extensive information in your application to show that it is historic, meaning it's more than 50 years old, it's congruent with the historic period of significance in the that was associated with creating the district, and it's also location where significant events happened. So it's both historic and significant. And I think it's kind of tricky because you're really dealing with zoning, not historic designations per se as a commission. But the reality is historic preservation is an important part of the Aiken zoning code, and you are part of that code. And I think the appropriate action for this commission would be to vote in favor of this application and recommend a contributing designation to the city council, because
Thank you, sir.
that's what the facts show.
Appreciate
Thank you.
that. Thank you. Yes.
John Davis, 107 Periwinkle Court. First of all, I have no horse in this race.
No pun
Whatever
intended.
way you decide is fine with me, but I'm looking at these pictures and I'm looking at the crowd, and those pictures do not adequately portray the architectural significance of these stables. I don't know if that's Gary's responsibility or somebody else's, but I just wanted to make that comment. Again, whatever you folks decide is fine with me, but I think if I look at those, I say, geez, these are the stables we're talking about, they look like hell.
Well, I agree.
Well, take a look at the architectural, superb architecture of the stables, which are not depicted in these pictures.
Do I have anybody here to speak in favor of this application? Somebody else to speak in favor of putting a contributing designation on the structure? Okay, Manny.
Again, Mandy Drumming, 412 Northwest Pendleton Street. I just have to speak. I have to speak on these issues again. Like you said, there are similarities between the earlier request and this one, or these requests, I guess. But I'd really like to speak of. I know there's been talk about rights, and I would like to, kind of speak of everybody's rights who are have to abide by the old Aiken guidelines and design manual process moving forward, which I think is really important because we know the integrity of the historic district. It impacts the economic development, and hence, that's why the Aiken guidelines were created. That's why they, and thus far they work. They do work, and that's why we had people wanting to move into the historic district. They want to come here because it's, of the guidelines that have kept it what it is. So. I know it's taken some time. That was not anticipated, where we are now. And I know there was the site visit, there was the hurricane and national election. But for decades, this process, when followed, it does look long term. It is fair for everybody when it's applied. And if you really think about it, a few months takes 50 years for a building or structure to be considered historic. 50 years. So. Just to kind of compare things. Again, this process, it should be upheld, not changed, not averted from. As far as getting this building, it is historic. We know it's historic, and I think everyone actually agrees on that. Regardless of who the applicant is, it could, because again, you're going to get requests like this moving forward, and then will you, You just want to keep those things in consideration. I think I'm a historian. There's the Aiken Federal Courthouse mural, and it even talks about, making sure that you apply the people's, the rules fairly. So, and I'm friends with a lot of these people involved. I have, I'm just kind of discussing on this topic here that for us, and people will say, why don't you buy Hitchcock Stables yourself? Why are they're about to fall down? No one wants these stables, and these similar reasons, but they really shouldn't influence your decision, right? Because really almost most historic buildings those things are said about them. I mean, Hotel Aiken was one of those, Old Aiken Hospital, and just in general preservation. Those things are said, and but that shouldn't divert you from following through with the process. So just keep that process in mind. It does work. Please go to the next step in the process, get them, contributed or landmark, whatever, as this, I think the request is contributing, and then go on to the next step in the process. It works. It will work, and you have a outcome of excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Okay. Anybody here to speak against this application? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Boswick.
Good evening. Charlie and Tara Bostwick, 525 Lawrence Street. These are our stables. These are the stables that Charlie's family has owned for 84 years. And I don't think anyone here is suggesting that these stables go away. What we are asking for is our rights as property owners to be a part of a decision that was taken out of our hands. And I've heard from other speakers kept on talking about process, and quite frankly, we have a concern with the process. Our application for an incredible preservation project was submitted to the DRB in June 26th of this summer. And stops and starts, finally our application was back in for the November 5th. And lo and behold, people complained that the November 5th meeting ran during the election. And so therefore, not enough people would come, so they postponed it. And that night, Faith Hawk's application to designate this property was submitted. So if we talk about process, I would urge you to consider that probably this process has been irregular. It has been not followed, and we have tried from the very beginning to follow the guidelines that the Design Review Board has provided. While you can't see it from the road, we are considered seeing from the road, so anything that is done to this property that can be seen from the road, which includes these stables, would be under the purview of the Design Review Board. That first speaker from the Historic Aiken Foundation, I didn't realize was an attorney, because it seemed like there was quite a lot of conversation about what you had to do legally in the Design Review Board. I appreciate it. I know Charlie appreciates your time as volunteers, and certainly the Design Review Board. This is not easy. You give your time, and you hear a lot of very strong opinions from people, and it's our lives, and so it is important to us, but I do appreciate the time that you all are giving towards this. I would argue that the zoning ordinance doesn't say anything about being able to make a choice on a contributing or non-contributing. I would like to see where that is. I have yet to see it in the Design Review Board manual, in the zoning, in the bylaws that the Design Review Board redid last spring. And then also I would like to mention that, and I mentioned this in the work session, there were 3 separate historic resource surveys that went through. I think there was one from 1981 to 83 that came out in 1984, Maria, is that correct? Then there was I don't remember, the next one was 88.
I think it was like
and
89.
Then 2010. And we've been here for many, many years. Some of the people that are for this have not lived here that long, and they may not know that this whole property was one piece up until when Charlie's mother died. And there is an historic resource card that clearly states that these barns are outbuildings, which from what I understand, an outbuilding is considered non-contributing. And I would urge you to consider that. And I think ultimately, and there are a lot of people that are here tonight that have been quite concerned about some of the unorganized groups have done to try to influence people's opinions. And it comes down to property rights. I mean, that's what is important to us as Americans. I became an American citizen in 2000, having lived here since 1977, and I'm proud of that. But it is, I urge you to consider not accepting this application and, in fact, potentially amending the application to designate this as a non-contributing structure. I would also like, and I will send this to your office, where I found on the historic register the fact that the stables existed. I think that's important. Again, I would, for those people that feel that these stables are in jeopardy, actually the plans, the preservation plan that the Kisners have so thoughtfully put together with the help of Dr. Jeff Burden, who is a former architect and renowned for his historic preservation. I've had wonderful conversations recently with Billy Hitchcock, who is one of two siblings remaining of Tommy Hitchcock Jr. He is absolutely thrilled of this project, and I would like to just read an excerpt. It's long, I won't bother you all tonight, but he said that he is particularly appreciates, and he's talking about the Kisners, that they'll be able to build their dream home below the relics and be surrounded by the woods. I think people forget that this is what Aiken used to be. Like Charlie, I love the notion of children playing in the stable again, or as much that can be saved. This type of private endeavor has the most meaning to me and my family, as it demonstrates a genuine desire by the Kisner family to lead by example. The Kisner family should be applauded for their efforts, and the people of Aiken should be cheering. The Kisner family have lived their entire lives in Aiken and wanting to share in our unique history and raise their children surrounded by this history bodes well for Aiken's future. I applaud you all. You have all my full and grateful support. Billy, William, and Hitchcock. So I think that's, I mean, these two families, the Bostwicks and the Hitchcocks, are on par with what we are trying to do. We all have so much respect for Aiken and the history of Aiken. And what we do take exception to is this application that is circumventing our wishes and our rights as property owners. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you. All right. Anybody else here to speak against this application? Brittany.
Hello, Brittany Kisner, 832 Fermata Place, Southwest. I'm here also tonight to against the application to make the barns a contributing status. Again, kind of speaking to what Mr. Rinaldini spoke about, you guys are planning and zoning commission, and I know that the zoning ordinances are very important, and that is specifically what the DRB kind of used, or the DRB chair and some members of the DRB kind of used as their reason for making the barns contributing. But the ordinance that they keep pointing to, 5.2.2, does kind of describe the process of what, allows for a structure to be, contributing, not landmark, and kind of the requirements. They keep saying that those ordinances right there say that a structure has to have a status, and that the barns, even though they were labeled non-contributing when we started this process, that they need to be now labeled contributing because of that ordinance. I'm certainly not an attorney, but when I go over and repeatedly read that, I don't see that language there. And then our attorney that we have consulted with also feels the same way. Our issue, again, like Tara said, is with property owners' rights and really just kind of the way this process has transpired. And I want to be very conscientious of everyone's time. I don't need to repeat everything that she said. But again, the procedural issues with the application, the irregularities with the chair, again, us being on that November 5th agenda after working so openly with the city, revising our application, the open meeting to look at the barns. We're very open. I think ultimately we're all on the same team here. We just want our application to have the chance to be heard. But then the chair made a call the night before the election, so less than 24 hours before the election, which the election had been on everyone's calendar, I think, for quite a time before that, to cancel due to the election. And then it's the next day when she submitted her own application to make the barns contributing status. Just kind of speaks to those irregularities in the process when ultimately, again, we all want the same thing. We have a beautiful plan to preserve and stabilize the barns. We are very aware of the history, the beautiful history of Peter Green, the trainer. We want to highlight that, the Hitchcock family, and ultimately we want our application to be heard. But we do feel that this kind of circumventing and pointing to these zoning ordinances and everything that's kind of transpired with the irregularities in the process are in some way to prevent something on our application from not having that. That's just my instinct. I can't prove that by certain. But again, I think what I really want to end with is we are all on the same team, and we are very open to working. We've tried to hire experts in historic preservation and follow Secretary of Interior standings and follow city guidelines and work openly with the city, but we're also very open to work with all these great historic minds in this room, because I think that's really what we want. It's all on the same team. But in regards to this application, we just want procedurally things to move forward as quickly as possible and for property owners' rights to be respected. And I'll end with, there is a little something called Preservation 101, believe it or not. And it says, remember, if you are not the property owner, it is always a good idea to communicate your preservation interests to the owner, as well as how those interests can benefit them in a variety of ways. Establishing pleasant relationships with owners of historic sites early on can help smooth the designation process later. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Okay, anybody else to speak against this application tonight? Yes, sir.
I'm Pat Cunning, 113 Mulberry, and I promise to speak no more than 5 minutes. First time I've ever done that. I'm here because I actually owned a property that was under the architectural of the historic, and but I was notified. This was back when this first started, my dad bought the York House in 1950. I bought it from him in about late 1980s. I got a letter that said we're gonna do a historic overlay, and then later I got a letter saying, we wanna make, I think it's the landmark now. My point is, they at least notified me. They didn't notify the owner of this property at all. They notified them same time we all heard about it, which was at the November meeting, and this was 6 months after the Kisners had submitted the plan. That ain't right, okay? I mean, that's just not fair to the Kisners and to the Boswicks. The Boswicks have had this property for sale for almost 8 years. No buyers until the Kisners came up with it. And I can't help but believe, I know something about real estate, and if a property that's overlooking Hitchcock Woods can't be sold in 8 years, there's something about the property that people don't like, or the buyers. And the biggest problem is that half of these stables are dilapidated, okay? So what's the solution? You want to just tell the Boswicks, no, you got to maintain this whole property, spend all that money to rehab half of the stables which are falling down. I'll give you an example. You go down Berry Road, and we had to, my bank had actually ended up owning my old high school, which kind of hurt me a little bit, but we couldn't keep it open. But anyway, the school got torn down. Ride down Berry Road, and you see a beautiful white brick with a stable going right down Berry Road, which actually adds to the community. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. It will happen because the Kisners want to build a beautiful home, have stables, overlooking Hitchcock Woods. And the other part about this is, I've been here all my life. appraised property, worked in this building for 30 years, appraised a lot of historical properties. I never knew where this was. I didn't know where it was until 2 weeks ago. I rode up the road, stopped because, I said, well, I'm going to go on dirt roads, and I tried to see where this was. 99.99% of the people in Aiken don't even know this is there. Something that the Boswicks owned for 77 years. And it took the Aiken Historical Foundation up till June of 2024 to say this needs to be on this register. We just haven't treated the Boswicks or the Kisners fairly in this. So what should you do? I would suggest that you vote against this and send it to the city, not approving this. Item 2 is that before you put historical designations on somebody's property, ask for their approval. It's not right. You're actually giving up property rights to 4 people on the design review board. You all read in the paper about the gentleman that wanted to buy the old church. Well, they finally approved it, but 4 people can determine your property and tell you what to do with your property. When my dad bought the York House, he stuccoed it. He didn't ask anybody anything, didn't have to. But now, when you go through it, and I've owned it, I sold it to my nephew, and he's sold it. He's starting to speak to me again because of the fact I sold it to him, and he worked his tail off to keep it open. But anyway, the point is, this has not been fair to the Kisners, and especially to the Boswicks. If anybody cares about the history of Stables and the horse people, it's these 2 people here. This Boswicks, for God's sake, are the history of Aiken. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Anybody else to speak against this application? Okay. Any comments? Okay. So, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion on the application at hand. This is for proposing a contributing structure historic designation for the Boswick Hitchcock Stables. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, and then I'd like to explain a couple things.
Let's make the motion and the second, and then we'll open for discussion.
For application number DES 25-01001, tax parcels 105-12-01-006, is to deny this application. However, it has to have a designation from what we were told for this to move forward. Is that correct?
In order for the DRB to be able to determine, to look at their matrix and make any sense out of it, yes, unfortunately, that is the construct of how the matrices and all that are set up, is based upon the labels.
Therefore, my answer to the however, it should be noted to council that we recommend it being a non-contributing property.
Good.
Hold on.
Hold
Quick point of order on that. Wouldn't we want to change it to approve this, but amend it to non-contributing and send the approval of the non-contributing forward?
Listen, I know how to run this meeting. And if any of y'all want to come up here and do it, you can volunteer. Don't tell me how to run this meeting. Okay? We have a motion to.
I think that's basically what I was saying. But,
Okay.
As long as that is
restate
clear.
your motion.
The motion is to deny this as a contributing property and to recommend to city council that it be non-contributing.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that.
All right, we got a couple seconds. We'll say Commissioner Stevens. Okay, discussion from the commission.
Well, you know, we have great people that own this property that have done many things wonderful for the city for years. And we have another wonderful family that's going to better this property and fix the stable that's there. This is going to be something that we're all should be very proud of. That's my opinion.
And Mr. Chairman, what I really don't understand, how can someone else designate someone else's property, especially if the owner didn't designate it as contributing or non-contributing? So therefore, I'm in conjunction with Commissioner Sam, and I think we should move this to City Council for non-contributing.
Any other discussion?
No.
Um,
I would just point out the circumstances we heard from one commenter about the process of the law, but I do believe that the manner in which this application was submitted suggests there's some intent there beyond preserving this historic structure, and I think the Kisners have made a commitment to do that, and I think that we, so long as that commitment continues, I have no problem agreeing with the recommendation.
So, point of I want to get a point of clarity across here from my own understanding. If the application were to be approved as contributing, Maria, then the current owners of the property, the Boswicks in this case, would be required to maintain that structure and whatever financial burden that would bring upon them?
Really, the way the zoning ordinance is written, if you're in a historic district, it doesn't really make it. There's not really a specific difference between whatever label it is. If you're in a historic district, you have a structure, you're not supposed to let it fall apart. I mean, so it's very vague. It's just the way the zoning ordinance is written.
Well, this whole process has been vague at best. And it's unfortunate that we as a city can't, we've got to do better all the way around. It says in section 2.6.1 of the Aiken zoning ordinance, part of this, the historic preservation overlay, is to conserve and enhance property values of historic sites, areas, structures, districts, and neighborhoods. I would argue that you're bringing the property value down by designating this as a landmark or contributing property. So I think it's incumbent upon us as a planning commission, as the gentleman said earlier, it's not necessarily our purview to determine what's historic and what's not. But I think it is important that we, as a planning commission, make our decisions based on what's good for the property owners. And if we don't, I think we're setting a dangerous precedent.
Well, you've had 3 surveys where this was not designated, and for it to then an application to be submitted after a request for modification had been made.
The ethics of this application just is I don't even want to get into it, but that's a topic for another day. Okay, we have a motion to deny this application, but to label it as non-contributing. That's your motion.
Amen.
All right. It's been seconded. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Okay, for those of you who wish to leave, I'll give you a minute if you not intend on hanging around.
Good job, commissioners.
Yep. I'm telling you, I have to. It is.
We're on H.
I will get back to it. I've never seen city council this crowded.
I'm not blaming you.
City council.
Disaster.
Hope so. Yeah, we're here to see that response.
Oh, this is our faith. In the group she's supporting. That's what it is. I don't think staff's got it. It's staff doesn't. Okay, if y'all could try to quickly exit the building. We still have quite a lot of applications tonight. We'd like to adjourn before Thursday morning. If we can. All right. As they are leaving, we will move on to application item H. Now, this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance regarding a new tiny home park zoning designation. The memorandum is, and I'll read it. This is for a proposed emergency and transitional tiny home ordinance. As requested by City Council, a zoning ordinance amendment to allow emergency and transitional tiny homes was drafted and is before us for consideration. The proposed ordinance was initially crafted through a zoning ordinance review of other municipalities that allow tiny homes and was amended further with input from Aiken County Homeless Housing. Additionally, multiple work sessions were held with the Planning Commission and City Council to further amend the proposed ordinance. The final draft is before us, and for recommendation, our action tonight is to consider this proposed emergency and transitional tiny home zoning ordinance amendment, and then to discuss it here in this public setting and make a recommendation to City Council. So, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for this. Before I do that, is there any comments about this application, this tiny home? Yes, sir.
I'm George Clare, 782 Burden Lake Road. I'm president of Aiken County Homeless Housing. You obviously know, and others might surmise from the title of the proposed zoning ordinance, that it would allow the construction of tiny homes for transitional housing for the homeless, a place for them to stay while they work their way back to the point of being a part of productive society. Someone might ask, why do we need tiny homes to do that? I mean, other than City Council told you to do it, right? The fact is that tiny homes are particularly well suited for transition and for implementation by the nonprofit sector of which we're a part. About 2 years ago, we had some students from USC Aiken ask Aiken's unhoused residents what they would most like in transitional housing, and the number one answer was a bathroom, a private bathroom. They get one in our tiny house. In any sort of congregate setting, like a shelter typically is, they don't get one. In a tiny home, they not only enjoy the privacy they get the opportunity to shoulder the responsibility for keeping the bathroom clean. And that's part of what it takes to transition. The tiny home has a kitchen, which gives them a similar opportunity to prove themselves that they can prepare meals for themselves and clean the kitchen too. One of the most important things they get in any non-congregate housing, including tiny houses, is a safe place to lock the door, relax, lay their head down, and get a good night's sleep without fear of attack or theft, something we all take for granted. While it's true that some homeless, actually a fairly small fraction, are homeless because they have mental illness, far more numerous are those who have mental illness because they are homeless. One of, if not the most prevalent forms of mental illness caused by living on the street is paranoia, antisocial tendencies driven by constant fear of being attacked and having all of one's worldly possessions stolen. Until treatment, counseling, and reduced stress can alleviate the antisocial tendencies, it's best not to crowd the occupants of transitional housing into congregate shelters, disused hotels, or even duplexes or triplexes. These put the stranger on the other side of a fairly thin wall. Another consideration is that our nonprofit organization expects to build transitional housing depending mostly on private donations for funding. That means the less expensive the better, and the less we have to spend at any point in time the better. Small, fewer square feet means inexpensive, and individual tiny houses can be funded separately. We expect individual churches, companies, veterans groups, and the like to sponsor one house, maybe two. The supplies for a single house should be in the range of $35,000. Further, the smaller the house, the easier it is for the volunteer amateurs that we expect to do most of the construction. Lastly, we can occupy individual houses as they're completed. If we get enough funds for one home, we'll build it and we'll give a home to the person that's waiting in line. When we get enough funds for another one, we'll build it and be able to serve another individual or maybe a family. In fact, we have an informal agreement with city officials that we will start our tiny home community building just a few of them to prove the capability of our managing organization before proceeding with full-blown construction. Tiny homes make that easy. It's been about 3 years since we started talking with City of Aiken staff about needing a modified zoning ordinance to allow us to develop tiny transitional housing, and thereby helping to get unhoused citizens off the street. The staff, you, the commission, and city council have all been hard at work for the last year, making sure that the ordinance is what it needs to be. Now, especially when we experience weather like we've had in the last couple of weeks, we can feel in our bones, and the unhoused folks can definitely feel it in their bones, that it's time that we get the ordinance done. We're working hard to be ready to have a concept plan for transitional housing ready to submit to the city for approval in the next couple of months. We need you to endorse the draft zoning ordinance this evening, doing your part so the city can be ready to review our plan when we submit it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this application tonight? All right. Yes, sir, please.
Address, name and address.
Name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
My name's Dave Paulin. I'm at 2188 Catholic Court in Aiken. I'm not familiar with this application, but I would like to speak on behalf of it. I have a relationship with the Habitat for Humanity folks here in Aiken. They are very resourceful. They reuse things. They build in a nonprofit fashion. We just gave honor and tribute to our president who was very successful in that endeavor. I see this aligned with that spirit here in Aiken. I'm also a 21-year Army veteran, and I've spoken to the Veterans Council here, and I suggested to them about a year and a half ago that we could perhaps build a community where veterans, be they homeless or not, could come and engage in meaningful activities, purposeful activities, such that they become engaged in activities that give them reason and pride and confidence, and it builds them back into the character of a contributing citizen in our community. I wholeheartedly endorse the tiny home concept and the ordinance that you may be reviewing. And I would like to urge you, because we have such a strong veteran community here, we cherish and honor our veterans tremendously, which is quite wonderful. But that organization, whether they have a partnership with this group or not, I would strongly urge them to seek that, and that the commission and the city also give their wholehearted support through that veterans organization. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hello to everyone tonight. My name is Teresa Callahan, also nonprofit Eyes on Aiken. Our is that at 622 Washington Circle in Aiken, of course. I would like to say, certainly with George Clare, 100% totally agree. I'm out and about all the time. So are my partners with Eyes on Aiken. I've been out there for years before the nonprofit with the, I call them houseless versus homeless people. And a lot of people that are out there, as he said, are veterans. And those are the ones that you really have a heartstring for because they have many illnesses that they just won't come in. So you just go out and you serve them and give them food, etc. However, we do house some of them with the hotels that are available that we have connections with, and very sad that you have to do that, but that is what we have to do. But I am totally on board with that. I did get a chance to go down to Spartanburg, where they had an awesome tiny home type thing. It is fantastic, where the city is on board with everyone. They even built a recreation building for people, and it's just dead on. It has made a significant difference. I hope that everyone is on board with this, because it could be me, it could be you, and everybody out there does not want to be out there. They just bad on their luck and get stuck out there. May God bless you guys. Thank you. Happy New Year, and thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I just want to clarify that the City Council and Planning Commission has held several work sessions on this application to create this zoning ordinance to have these. So it's more of just a formality to put it into the zoning ordinance. So the city supports you in this role, but we've been through several rounds to make sure that we get the zoning spelled out. So when you do come back in front of us, that it's an easy road. So I think the city's behind you 100% on this. Any other comments? Okay, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move the proposed emergency and transitional tiny home ordinance forward to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay. So motion from Commissioner Stevens and a second from Commissioner Matthews. Before we, I'm gonna hold discussion before we go to a vote. Mario, if you could, I want to get a couple things in the record on this application.
Helps turn it on. So just to have a few items on the record, as Chairman Reynolds mentioned, we have been through at least 2 City Council work sessions with this, and then also 2 Planning Commission work sessions. I thought it important that I address a couple of concerns that were brought up from just a singular council people concerning why we have structured the ordinance the way we have. One of the concerns or questions was why we didn't just simply lower the square footage in our zoning ordinance and then just put it in plan residential. The answer to that, and in discussions with the Planning Commission, there was a consensus that the plan residential section of our zoning ordinance is just simply not geared to tiny homes. It has density requirements that would not work. It has lot sizes requirements that would not work, district sizes that would not work, etc. So that is one reason why that's not the route we took. There was also a question about why this is just open. The ordinance is set up to, it must be managed by nonprofit, social service, religious organization. The question from one council person was why this is not opened up for commercial, which would be for profit in the ordinance, simply because that's a separate animal. If there is ever a consensus this council would like us to do that, we could do so, but it would need to be a separate ordinance. And again, that was also discussed with the planning commissioners, and there was a consensus that yes, we would need to deal with that separately for profit tiny home communities. And I believe that's about it.
Okay. That being said, any other discussion from the commission? Okay, so we have a motion for approval of the ordinance and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. All right, moving on to item Oh, you can be excused if you don't want to wait for the remaining lineup. We're gonna keep going here though, so get through these. This is item I. This is application number 25-60003. This is a rezoning request for tax parcel number 121-11-12-007. This is located on 223 East Boundary Avenue Southeast, and they are currently under light industrial and looking to come in under multifamily low density. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on this application? Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Queen Harvey, home address 110 Calumet Court, Aiken. This location is another family piece of property that we own. Did not know it was light industrial until we were thinking of, we had gotten together and said we were going to put an angel wing on it. An angel wing is where you have an elderly family member that feels that they don't want to go stay with anybody else and you can't tell them anything. They're not ready for a nursing home, but they're not ready for your home either. Okay, so we're adding an angel wing, and we found out that it was not a residential, even though it's been taxes paid since 1943 on that location. And I think it's really awful that light industrial areas around the city have residential property on it. And when you buy the property or change it from place to place, pay your taxes, no one is notified that you're on light industrial instead of a residential property. And then you're blindsided by that, having to go through extra expenses of coming here, paying money to get the zoning changed and everything. And that's my hap on there. But besides that, that's what we want to do, change it to why a multifamily is because really it could be residential, but because we were putting adding a second door to the addition so she can come in and out of the house on her own without having to go through the regular house. It does not have at the present, we're not putting we have a designation for a kitchen. It's just a bedroom and a bath that's added onto the back of the house is what we were planning. And that's how we came up with this.
Is this a single family home? One person, one family's gonna live in this?
It's one family. It's family that's living there, but she don't want to live in the same house. She wants her own entrance. Okay. When you have an elderly family member, I don't know if you have an elderly mother that can be a little elderly she can come to visit you for 5 days. On the 6th day, she unpacked her bag and she's ready to go visit somebody else.
I understand.
For clarification, it's the same structure.
Yes.
There's just a door that an extra door you're putting on the back, so that way she has her own entrance.
Exactly what we did. An angel wing is basically you put a throughway that's on the back of the house, and then you put the structure on it.
So are you adding a new structure? Are you adding a new structure?
Yes.
An addition?
It's a bedroom, adding a bedroom.
I understand. I'm just trying to get clear on what you're doing.
Okay. So it is a separate structure for our purposes. No, it's not.
It's just an attached.
It's attached.
She's just adding a room.
Okay.
A room.
Oh.
She wants her own room.
Yeah. Okay.
You're just adding a room.
We understand.
Okay.
A bathroom and a bedroom and a bathroom.
Commissioner Messina had a question.
I had given the information to them, and it was basically just a room that we were going to place on it. In fact, I had went to Ms. Price and about seeing if we could get grants for angel wings for the city of Aiken, because there are a lot of parents who can't stay in their own homes, not ready for nursing homes. But who don't want to be a part of the family. But if you put an angel wing on, just a little thoroughway from the house to their little wing. You can still watch over them and everything, and they can put their dollies out and do whatever they want there, but it won't disturb the general family. You don't have to put a kitchen in it. You do all the cooking. In fact, most of them don't want to put a kitchen on it because of the fact that they'll leave gas on, electrical on, and so forth of this nature.
Understand.
They're doing this in a lot of areas instead of trying to get them into nursing home or senior care homes, and you just keep the family together. But it's basically this family. It's one family.
Thank you.
They wouldn't need that. I just think.
The first question I had, or I guess comment I had when I reviewed the application, is that you're looking to have it rezoned from light industrial to RML, which is multifamily.
That is correct.
Low-density housing. First thing I noticed that the homes in the area on the same side of the street are zoned RS6, 6,000 square feet per.
There's only one, the addition that was put on is 312 square feet, heated area. But when I went down about it, and they told me that it was okay to go ahead and do the multi in case later on, years down the line, someone wanted to use that separate entrance, a small kitchenette could be added, and you would have two. So we put all of the material in case in the future it could be used for a college student or someone else, once that person is no longer there. And they told me in order to do that, I should just think about the future instead of just residential, and that's why I requested.
I guess that would concern me if that, I have no problem with the Angel Wing in terms of having a relative there. Once it's open up to a college student, that's something completely different.
Well, that's what I'm referring to. We're talking about our own family. We're not bringing in strangers in because they have access to the house.
But in terms of, maybe it's a question for the planner, would the RS6 zone and having a single-family home with an addition, it's going to stay attached to that home, so it's just going to be part of that same structure.
It's part of the same structure. It's
Would that be a problem?
Not for RS6, no. It's all considered singular residence. Yeah.
It's one residence and you happen to have two doors.
Yes.
So I think the RS6 would be more appropriate. The multifamily zone has a minimum requirement of 12,500 square feet for the lot.
It's for
This
the
lot
district,
only has 7,000 square feet.
Well, they own the one next to it, and when he told me, when I went down to ask about it, that's the designation they told me to utilize.
Okay.
So
I think, to the board, I think the more appropriate would be RS6, and you can still do the same.
He's not trying to prevent you from doing what you're doing. He's just trying to get you more aligned with what the size of your lot is, ma'am. Okay?
Us changing it to RS 6 will not affect your ability to put an Angel Wing in there for your family member.
Right.
I have to reapply again?
No, ma'am.
We'll do it. We could do it.
If you're amendable, ma'am, if you're amendable to Commissioner Messina's suggestion, then we'll make a motion based on that, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. I will entertain a motion for rezoning this from light industrial to RML.
Okay, well, since I started the comments, I'll make that. In regards to application 25-60003, tax parcel 121-11-12-007, an application currently zoned LI, light industrial. I'd like to amend the application that the proposed zoning be RS-6. I'd like to make that motion as a recommendation of approval to the city council.
Second. All right. Motion by Commissioner Messina, Commissioner Clarkson with the second. Just snaked it right in front of Commissioner Matthews. So the motion on the table, and it's been seconded, is to approve this application to rezone from light industrial. However, he amended it from RML to RS6. Any other discussion from the commission? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. All right, item J. Hang in there, we're halfway through.
We're halfway.
When's dinner coming?
Yeah.
This is application number 25-60004, a rezoning request for the tax parcel numbers as listed. The owner is the city of Aiken, and this is a location at 102, 114, and 118 Williamsburg Street Southeast. Its current zoning is light industrial, and they're looking to come in as DB downtown business. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on this? Okay. Anybody to speak in favor of this application? Anybody against this application? Any comments? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to application 25-60004, rezone request for tax parcels 12106090001 and 12106090002 and 12110020001. Current zoning LI, proposed zoning DB. I make a motion that we move to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Clarkson, second by Commissioner Erb. Discussion from the commission. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Like, sign, opposed, and it's unanimous. Okay, item K. This is application number 25-50003. This is a city service request for tax parcel number 134-16-01-001. This is located on Wire Road, across from Nobles Lake Road. It's currently in the county as urban development. Is the applicant here to discuss this application tonight? Okay. Before we open it up for discussion to the public, I do want to make you aware that this application is asking the Planning Commission for city service requests only. Okay, that means we do not necessarily have purview over all and any concerns of this development as far as density, traffic, those type things. The conditions are listed that they do have to abide by, but this is still in the county until it becomes contiguous. So this is just a city service request. I just want to make sure that's clear. Sometimes people get confused with that. All right, anybody speak on behalf of this application? Anybody against this application? Comments? You have a comment back there, ma'am? Nope. Okay.
Once, twice.
Against it? Yes, ma'am. Please come up. Thank you for coming up.
Yes, sir. I'm Donna Capril Craft, and I reside with my father at 2783 Wagner Road in Aiken. And when we were first notified this through the county, it was a little bit concerning that I attended a meeting at the county and spoke on the fact that this was once in my family, and just like maybe the Bostwicks have been here for a long time, my family has also been here. The Garvins and the Gunters from New Holland, from Severn, and my grandfather, who once lived on the property, and my father and myself, I'm a trustee for him. He is 97 years old, therefore I'm trying to keep him protected. He has the house that my grandmother, his mother-in-law, lived in, where my mother was born and reared, and there's almost 40 acres across the road from where this development is slated to be put. My grandfather, he was actually on the county commission. He was also a court crier at the old county courthouse, and he was also on the school board out at J.D. Lever, which is, it used to be Center School back then. We are overly concerned about the growth that is happening in Aiken and Aiken County. Not only that, there seems to be an encroachment that the city wants to keep going further and further with their veins and their arms to take over county land and supply these developers with water. There's no reason, a lot of people that I've spoken with that live on Wire Road, they did not even know that the city was going to be running a water line. I attended the meeting at the county, and apparently the county did not know that the city was running a water line, and it's now been stopped, apparently, because of some problems and some issues. There have been some studies done that I have gone online, and it's amazing to know that the Land Conservancy folks have said that we are destroying our towns, ruining our precious wildlife and woodlands and farmlands, and the top 12 states with the most threatened land loss, South Carolina ranks as number 8. The counties that are the, quote, hot spots for the most land loss are, I ranked them in order according to the survey. Aiken ranks number 1 at the top, followed by Anderson and Greenville, Spartanburg, Lexington, and Richland. I have contacted the South Carolina Environmental Law Project to try to secure their help in protecting more land from these greedy developers that come in from out of state that simply want to line their own pockets, and they don't care about the environment. They don't care about the people that have been here, and our property is going to sit pretty much across the road from all of these houses. And if I lived there, I don't want to look at all of that. I don't want to have to deal with the influx of cars, the pollution, the noise, and I can almost guarantee you slab houses, septic tanks, and the area that is behind this proposed project that's going to be is, if you've looked at the map, the topographical map, this is my cousin's property right next door, Dr. Richard Glenn Gunter. He owns about 100 acres on right next door. And right behind his property is where the swampland and the
Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap it up.
runoff, and I'm concerned about what it's going to do to the pollution in the lake.
We understand that. Thank you so much for coming and speaking. Any other comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application number 25-500003, city service request, tax parcel number 134-16-01-001, zoning, urban development. I move that we send this to city council along with the 8 possible conditions.
Okay, motion for approval with conditions listed. Commissioner Matthews, do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Erb, second. Discussion. Okay.
My question is whether or not there is an existing service line at this location that we tap into this, or is this something that has to be constructed?
Well, I think there's a question for Mike. He's our engineering director. Are there any concerns as far as the water line out there that you're aware of? No? Okay.
Is there one? I mean, a city line?
Has the city line been run out there to that property? Okay, I'm ask Mike, the engineer here. It has not run yet. Okay. How far away is it, approximately? Okay. What about the sewer? Same?
all
Septic, okay. Any other comments, Caleb?
I just want to go on the record and say no one is under any obligation to utilize water lines, even if they are run out that way.
No, they're not.
And there's no one here to speak on behalf of this?
No, man, we've already had a motion in a second. Sorry. The applicant's not here. Okay, it's been a motion for approval, conditions in a second. Any other discussion from the commission? All those in favor, raise your hand. Like, sign, oppose. 1, 2, okay. So the motion passes with 2 opposition and Commissioner Stevens and Connor.
Mr. Connor.
What did I say? Okay. Application L. This is an application number 25-50006. It's a city service request for tax parcel number as listed. This is located on Edgefield Highway and Allen Avenue, and it's currently under the county zoning as urban development. This is a very similar application to the previous one of some 609 single-family detached lots, 96 being townhomes. This is in the county, and there are 8 conditions listed. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on this? Are you the applicant? That's fine. No problem.
Will Cakis, 3129 Montpelier Drive, Augusta. Speaking on behalf of the applicant since he's on crutches. So, here to answer any
You can
questions.
give us just a quick summary of your intent, if you would.
Yeah, it's 206 acres in the county. We're here to petition for water and sewer service. Zoned properly in the county. I think total of 705 units.
Okay, any questions for the applicant?
I see the first phase is 31.9 acres.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a time frame before you start the second phase?
Probably be 18 to 24 months.
And you're aware of the conditions listed that you have to abide by?
The applicant.
He should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else to speak on behalf of this application? Anybody speak in opposition to this application? Any comments towards this application? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for city service request for this application. Don't make me call on you.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application 25-50006, city services request for tax parcel 10315010002 and 10312060004 and 10312060015. I make a motion that we move to city council for approval.
Okay, motion for
Second that.
Commissioner Clarkson, motion for approval, and seconded by Commissioner Erb. Discussion from the commission.
I just have the same question. I'm assuming, given this development's location and what's around it, that those services are already in effect, but I want to confirm that before I
They're there.
vote.
The water and sewer at this location, Mike? Yes. Okay, any other comment? Okay, motion for approval for city service requests. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it passes unanimously. Okay, item M, this is another city service request for application number 25-50007, tax parcel number 133-19-01-005. This is located at Columbia Highway and Beaver Dam Road. It's currently in the county as urban development. This is for single-family residential development. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on behalf of this? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm kind of hoping they're all here, not for me.
Find out.
Yeah, I know. As you get closer to the end, you start thinking. My name is Joseph Galino. I'm Vice President of Land Development for Beasley Development, 7009 Evanstown Center Boulevard. This project is 214 acres located right on Columbia Highway. It's right across from the airport. We're proposed to put in 726 single-family detached homes. We reserved over 50 acres for common space and green space and amenities. Up front, we propose an amenity center with a pool, possibly some tennis courts, some pickleball courts. Back further where you see future development written, that's going to be a Central Park type open space where you can go and have picnics and things of that nature. I don't know if anybody's been into Central Park in New York. I kind of grew up over there, so I wanted to create something like that up there. We're looking for city water, city sewer, which I believe is right out front, out of our front entrance right there. I've read through the conditions that were placed by planning. I don't have any issues with those. We're in the process of trying to get some of those conditions done. We have a draft on the traffic impact study. We should be submitting that shortly. And these plans have also been sent to Aiken County for their approval. I don't know how much time. I think that's by the end of the month, we should get comments back from them, which I can share with you, unless they don't. If they send them, that's fine. If not, I can send them on over. I'm willing to answer any questions you may have on my development.
Any questions for the applicant?
One quick question. You mentioned a possible amenity center.
Yes, sir.
Yet I don't see it reflective in any.
It's kind of hard. You see where that one white piece right on the corner of Columbia and Beaver Dam is? There's a rectangle there.
First,
Can you pop it up, Meyer? Right there. Go right to the black piece next to it, the shape. That's the amenity center.
Okay, so all of that will be the amenity center?
Yeah, we'll have some parking in there. Right now, pickleball's hot. I've put those in a couple of my neighborhoods. It'll have a pool. Whether it has a clubhouse or not, we're not 100% sure, but that's what we're working toward. That would be the amenity center.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Other questions for the applicant?
Yeah,
Okay.
You drive your car. Yeah, somebody else asked me that. There's actually going to be one entrance off Columbia, and then if you go down Beaver Dam, you can see the first one into Section 1. Go a little further, right past the easement, the power easement, there's another entrance, and then further down, there should be three coming in off of Beaver Dam. And I think we lined them up with some of the other roads on the other side.
Okay, other questions for this applicant? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else to speak in favor of this application? In favor? Okay, opposition, yes ma'am. Yes ma'am, you just raise your hand. Please come up.
My name is Pat Berkey. I live at 1077 Wire Road. I've never done this before.
Take your time, we won't bite.
Okay. This application on Beaver Dam, they're saying they're putting in 700 homes. It is 1 mile from the K, the Cooper Place. They want to put in 133 homes. That's over 1,000 homes within 1 mile. And then I know we haven't got down to N, but it looks like they're doing an Aiken County Fire Training Center.
Let's keep our focus just on this application. You'll have an opportunity to talk
Okay.
about that if you don't mind.
Just a lot
I understand.
of
I understand the concern.
in that one area. And if I wanted to move to a suburban or to a congested area, I would have. but I moved out to Wire Road because it's far away,
Sure.
it's peaceful, and 750 homes, and a mile away, I'm going to have, and then the K, Cooper, is right next to my house. That's not even a mile away. That's next door. So that's 133 homes. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am, the growth is here.
I just think that we need to really look.
Ma'am, we
what's
don't
going
disagree,
on.
but this application, and I do think this is just whether or not the city will provide utilities to that. We don't control, actually, this allows us more control in terms of putting the conditions that we've requested if we do provide those services, including open space requirements and things like that.
Okay.
So the question is, do we give them water or not?
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we had the far back row there, sir. You had your hand up next. We'll get to everybody.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacob Sanoski, and I'm part owner at 1416 Old Kimball Trail. We also own the property that directly borders this parcel. We were fortunate enough to move here out of the city in 2021, and we purchased our dream property. And then we also purchased the neighboring property. On that property, we conduct a lot of recreational activities, including hunting. We ride motocross. We have our own private little facility. It's a very peaceful. We hike back there. Lots of that piece of property is home to any wildlife. We've already seen that they've clear cut parts of it, and then when Helene came through, it damaged even more of it, made it look like an absolute mess. Our main concern is when they go to deforest this entire area, the noise pollution that we will have, and that we've already seen from the other developments they made, like Shaw. We're already getting a lot of the noise from that. And with this being deforested, we're going to have zero privacy. The noise is going to be outrageous. It's going to be very unsightly, and it's pretty much going to destroy all the reasons why we moved to this area. Along with the noise, the added traffic, I've already witnessed this week one accident on Wire Road at the intersection of Crooks Bridge. That was last night. It was a pretty bad accident. Living right near Siegler's Crossroads, we've seen multiple accidents right there, right by our house. Very bad accidents. Even they added the stop signs and the stoplights. We still see, I don't know how many times a day, near misses, and it's a pretty dangerous intersection, and all these added homes are going to add a ton of extra traffic to the area that we just can't have. That's where I stand on this. I mean, I don't think it should be approved. I know you said you can't control the HOA, obviously, or the extent of what they're going to build, but I can foresee that the added utilities are going to only entail in complete deforestation of that area. There's a lot of farms, the Siegler's farms that border this. Those farms are probably going to be non-existent in years to come when we, keep adding these developments. But yeah, that's where I stand with this.
Appreciate you coming up. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Gentleman in the red back. Yes, sir.
Usually there's kind of they will look at it the same time we do. Yeah.
The application really is being governed by the county planning commission.
Right.
Again, we are here looking for sewer and water, but all these traffic questions and environmental questions really should be asked of the county planning commission.
Yep.
There is one other.
You state your name and for the record, if you don't mind. Just state your name.
Oh, Alan Sigler, 10 News Sigler Circle.
Appreciate it.
My farm borders this. We raise beef cattle, but there's two problems I have. One, there's a cemetery right there off of Beaver Dam Road. There's several graves right there where they've got those houses that'll, I didn't know if you knew, but, that'll have to be addressed. And there's an old highland pond in there that ditch comes out of it and feeds right through my place. And we've had runoff problems forever. That ditch comes through my place, runs under Wire Road, runs down to a couple other ponds. Right, I don't see any retention. If we build all those houses in there now, it's gonna flood.
Well, sir, let me just assure, whether you agree or disagree that the homes should be there, he's gonna be required to retain all his stormwater on this development. Legally, he cannot dump any runoff on any neighboring properties. He's gonna have to submit a civil drawing to the engineer that's gonna have to prove that he's maintaining all water runoff in retention ponds. Because this is city water or city services request, we're not gonna get those drawings in this particular application. That's something that you need to take up with the county, although you don't need to take that particular point up with them because by law they're required that his engineers design it to not adversely affect the neighboring properties.
But then if you don't have a plan.
But sir, to the previous point, we're just approving city services, water and sewer. That's it. The county has purview. This is in the county. It's not in the city limits. I know you guys live out there, don't want to be in the city limits. I understand that. But this is county who will have purview over the density, the final drawings, the layout, that type of thing. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I'm just letting you know that it's not under our purview for that.
I would also like to point out that there are 4 retention ponds drawn on that plan there.
I can't hear you.
There are 4 retention ponds drawn on that plan there that we're looking at.
Not right there on that bottom. No, that don't matter.
That's a pond, that's a pond,
Yeah.
that's a pond, this big old thing here's a pond.
But see down there where that little blank spot is?
It really, I don't mean to belabor it, but it doesn't matter what's shown on that drawing. That's just a concept plan. He's going to have professional engineered drawings with contours, with a stormwater prevention plan. DHEC won't allow him to move a blade of grass without a stormwater approved retention plan. I know that for a fact. So if you want to be concerned about the density and the housing, the traffic, that's one thing. But the stormwater runoff, he is going to have to abide by the local codes and federal codes to maintain his water.
Okay.
And I did want to add something too, as far as the planning commission. They should be posting that property whenever their meeting is going to happen. So keep an eye out for the postings for that.
Okay, sir, right here in the hat there in the blue. And then, ma'am, I'll get you next.
How are you today?
Good, thanks for coming.
Dr. Mike Rezoning. I live at 313 Newberry Northwest. I just have a concern about just the nature of the water system in Aiken. As a resident of downtown Aiken, I know that there are many times when my water is cloudy. I know that the system is under a lot of stress, and to expand it at this time may not be the best idea. I'm not trying to.
I can't. We're not engineers of the water quality,
exactly.
sir, and so we can't answer that question.
But the intention is to expand the water system
Correct.
to this area, right? So if you already have stress on the water system, and it hasn't been handled.
I'm not so sure stress is what's causing some of that stuff. I think we have aging infrastructure is part of the reason. I'm not an engineer, and I don't work for the city.
That's right. And aging infrastructure should be a priority over expanding the water system into greater areas where people don't really want these high-density developments.
I understand.
So that's all I just wanted to add.
I understand. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you for hearing me.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Tracy Schaefer, and I live at 1376 Wire Road, and I've definitely heard you have no control over what they do. But if you did give them sewer services, that would allow closer density homes versus if the sewer system was denied, they would have to install septic systems, which would provide a little bit larger lots, which would reduce the density of how many homes. I doubt we're going to be able to fight this, unfortunately. I agree with what's been said thus far, but you guys have no control over that. But what you do have control over is if they can have sewer or not. And if you let them tap into the sewer line, then they're going to pack those houses in there Whereas if you didn't, we would at least have a little bit of space and it would be a little bit preserved. So.
Understood.
My only comment there, ma'am, and I'm no hydrologist, but there are issues with septic systems as well.
You're right. I'm on a septic
versus
system.
treated. Well, I mean, in terms of the quality of the environment and the impact on your water bodies around and your farmland and things like that. So, I mean, this is a difficult decision for all of us. All of us are cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of growth going on here. A lot of us don't like the manner in which it's happening.
Correct.
The question, though, is do you provide development across from the airport with city services? That makes a lot more sense than providing a development that's an island in and of itself, where there is no existing infrastructure, like the other that I voted against. So, you know, it is a very difficult decision for all of us. We don't like, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't like to see these high density developments coming in, but you do have to look at, they are coming. And the question is this an appropriate place for one or not?
Okay. And thank you for bringing up the septic. I didn't, thinking about how it could leach into the water beds.
I mean, if you might have 400 houses with all septic, that's going to cause as many
I'd much rather have city services on that.
I understand.
Thank
Okay.
you so much for speaking tonight. All right, any other? Yes, ma'am. Right here.
My name is Elaine Jackson, and I didn't come to, but I feel like I do need to mention something. Right across the street from that, I lived 30 years. I still own the 50 acres. It was 98, it was 80 acres, but I sold 30 of it with one house on it. My husband, Johnny Jackson, built a subdivision right next to that, but he put one house on 1 acre because he cared about that situation. And I'm, as a builder's wife, and he died 4 years ago, and I still own that house because we have, my kids grew up in it. Like I said, I lived there 30 years. That traffic there, you cannot get out sometimes. He's talking about 700 and something houses, which I'm going to give my opinion because I have a right to, which is totally 1,000% ridiculous. You're packing people on top of people. All these people have got to come and go to school, get out. All my family, my granddaddy and my grandmama met out there. My mother, all my family is that. That's the country. We want the country. We need the country. Now, there's nothing wrong with city water running out there because we have it out there, of course. I'm on a well. But I agree with her. If y'all deny city water, which whether you can legally or not, I don't know, but you can do something. It is a difference because you have to, when you build a septic tank and you put a well, they have to be so many feet apart. And they don't have, and that controls it. But this is getting out of control. When I sit here and I hear 500 houses over here, these people don't care. I've lived in Aiken my whole life. My mother graduated from Aiken High, my grandmother, my children. So y'all are letting this get out of control. You're letting people come here, and the city of Aiken is giving them water, giving them utilities, whatever y'all want to give them, and say, oh yeah. When my husband would go up there for planning to do a subdivision, and the last one he did, he put 3+ acre lots, 3 acres plus, because he cared. And but y'all are allowing it by saying, oh, sure, we'll give you water. We get, you're getting paid for it. I mean, I have to pay for water and fire dues here and there. But it's got to be held back at some point in time. I know y'all hold back things here and there with karate schools or different things that you say, no, you can't do this here because this traffic is not going, this is not where you can't put it. In the city, and I know this is the county, but I'd like to keep my county. I'd like to keep my country living. And like I said, I'm aware of Beaver Dam Road. I lived there 30 years. And my grandmother's farm is right down the road on Beaver Dam Road, where she had, where she grew up, and her grandmother grew up there. But you need to do something. As people, you need to take control of this. This is the county, this is rural, this is our country area. We need to keep our country. When I say the country, I mean the country. I live at 205 Hamlin Road. I think I was supposed to say that, which is just a little far out. And the only reason I moved off of Beaver Dam Road, I love Beaver Dam Road, it's awesome, is because we were offered 400 acres. So you can tell I'm a country girl. I don't care about people around me, and I don't want a lot of, that right there would run me crazy. They're building them on a slab. They're going to be on top of each other, and the traffic's going to be horrendous. I just wanted to mention
I understand. Thank you for speaking tonight.
May I offer
that.
one?
For any consideration.
I hear a lot of support for that comment, and I appreciate it, Ms. Jackson. But it seems to me that you're blaming the city, when in reality there are some solutions to this problem, and that is don't sell your land to a developer. Or put your land in a conservation easement, or do some things that protect it. But when a development across from the airport is presented and makes a request for city services,
That whole area there on the exit and the interstate, Shaw's there now. Now there's a 7-Eleven on the other side of the interstate. There's an industrial park. There's an airport. The J.D. Lever School's right there. They'll probably expand it before long. I mean, the growth is coming in that area. It's there. And that's where these developers are going to be looking, close to schools, close to interstate access. I don't disagree with what you're saying at all from maintaining country life. I'm with you on that. But we've got to be strategic in how this is, and I'm with Commissioner Connor here. I mean, there's ways to circumvent this stuff as property owners in the country, in my opinion. Okay, we'll take the gentleman right here in the back right there, and I'll get to you, sir, in the blue in just a second.
Hello, my name is James Cargos, and I reside at 1416 Old Kimball Trail in the wintertime. 2020, my lifelong friends moved here to get out of Connecticut and get out of a gridlocked area. And when we looked at this property, it was beautiful woods surrounding the entire area. I know those power lines are back there, but other than the power lines, it was all forest. As of last year, they clear cut that area, thinned it out, took a bunch of the mature trees, and with that big storm that came through, a lot of the other mature trees have blown over, so the area went from nicely wooded to pretty beat up and looks kind of devastated at this point, kind of ruining the nice rural area that everyone here is kind of trying to keep and maintain. And waterways, I'm kind of not going to be here and saying we don't need the houses, but to put in utilities over there will probably affect the wells and the gentleman's farm up the street. The traffic will get crappy, and I just want to voice my opinion as well to say that the utilities are not a good idea. That's it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yes, sir. Right here in the blue.
My name is Harry Chase. I live at 268 Beaver Dam Road, right across the street from where this monstrosity is going to be built. And, something nobody's talked about at all. You cut that 200 and something acres, we can hear the airport now. Okay? They clear cut that, and that's what they're going to do. You know what I mean? I've lived there since the house was new. I've been there 41 years. I bought the second house on that street. I've been there the whole time. And I don't want you to give them water. That would solve the whole problem. Seriously. But it's ridiculous. 700 something houses is absolutely ridiculous. We can't even, and I know we're not talking about traffic. I know you guys don't care about the traffic. It's not in your thing, but we can't get out now. We can't get off the street now in the morning, You know what I'm saying? What are we going to do with 700 houses?
I hear you. Yes, sir.
These are questions for your county commissioner.
Yeah.
We don't set the ability to put this many houses within that space.
I understand that. What I'm asking you to do is don't give them the water.
I understand.
Don't give them the water, we don't have any problem.
Well, they still can get water.
Yeah,
It's just whether or not we provide it.
yeah. But, it's just ridiculous.
I understand.
I mean, to pile them up on top of each other, just ridiculous, And they're building more right around the corner from me.
That's a growing area. That's a growing area. It's a lot different than 40 years ago.
Right, it's a growing area.
The
If you had
county's comprehensive plan is under review right now. I would recommend that all of y'all be very involved in that process.
Yeah.
If you don't like what you see.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just ridiculous, you know what I mean?
We agree with you. We could be here all night arguing about how ridiculous it is. So
What I'm asking you to do is don't give them the water.
I understand. Point taken. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Alan Willing, live at 161 Millray Circle. I realize, the water is the main topic here.
It's the only topic.
Yes, and, you have a water main that runs up number 1 highway, which is supplied from Shiloh, the pump, everything now. You don't have water running up Wire Road. You're trying to make that loop into Beaver Dam. You have a main line that comes out of Industrial Park that you put Shaw, all those industrial places on them. You're only putting so much water through a pipe. You can only, you can put pumps behind it, but you can only move so much water. I just asked for, the commission to deny this until some kind of study has been done to make sure that there's enough water that's going.
Well, there are professional engineers hired by the city. We are not engineers. You understand that?
I understand.
And I understand your point. I understand your point.
Study has been done to cover it.
These permits and these things have to get approved by these engineers, and they have to base it on capacity. It's his risk if he submits the thing and they don't have sewer capacity or water capacity, that's his loss.
Well, it's not his loss. It's my loss further down the line, because once you start taking water from one place, it drops in another.
Sure, I understand. We can't answer all that, sir. I'm with you. I understand what you're saying, but we can be here all night and assume what we have to assume as volunteer commissioners, that the paid engineers are reviewing these and only approving their permits if the capacity is there. I don't know that. And this is another.
That's my question.
We don't know that. We are assuming that the engineers, Mike P. is an engineer with the city of Aiken, and we have to assume that his staff and his team know the capacity and know what's available to approve these. Now, as far as county goes, I don't have any purview over county. I don't know that. But again,
And I realize,
we empathize with you, but at the end of the day, we're not being asked to be engineers and determine the capacity. We're being asked whether or not it makes sense to provide city water sewer services at these locations.
And I think that's a fair question of the engineer, and I have no problem with us asking him that question. We've got a 700 lot development on the board that's asked for city services. Can we have the capacity to support a development like that? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Per the engineer.
Okay.
And we have a huge, brand-new water treatment plant
That
coming.
one's gonna be a couple years down the road, Justin.
Right, yeah.
I know they broke ground and everything on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay, any other comments, sir?
Dave Paulin, 2188 Catholic Court. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this issue as well. The citizens that are bringing up the water issue and its subsequent issues have valid points. We understand, and I'll just speak for myself, we understand you're not engineers. You're counting on the validity of the engineer and his staff. I can tell you personally, my subdivision that I live in was granted an easement for storm water by virtue of an email. It was not the engineer's department at the county. It was an email that was requested that showed an agreement between the developer and a residential development and a commercial facility right next door. So now that stormwater that was agreed to in an email as a granting of an easement by the developer, my residents, into that commercial area, he is above our housing. His sewer line comes straight down, not sewer, pardon me, stormwater, and ties in to our community. That comes right across one of our main streets into our retention pond. The hydrology report that this gentleman, Mr. Connor, was referring to was conducted only on the capacity of that retention pond for those homes in that community, of which there are 87. So in a similar fashion, I would ask you to make sure that this 700 unit development here is specifically and legitimately authorized by the hydrology report that are required by the county. Your approval here must reside on you validating for all of us citizens that any water that you authorize to leave the main lines and support the additional increase in volume of this facility have valid engineering hydrology reports that you can then say, yes, citizens of Aiken, we have validated this, and this gentleman's facility right here will not impinge on the industrial needs nearby, the farm needs nearby, the residential, and the school. I would only ask you out of personal experience with my own community that hydrology reports sometimes are backdoored by people making agreements with engineers and developers getting easements from others in the chain of approval. That's all I would ask you to do. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for a city service request for this application.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to the application number 25-5008, before I make the recommendation, I want to say I do feel the pulse of the people, and I do understand what you're saying. But you do have two other avenues. You need to also talk to your county councilman, and you have opportunity to come to the city council and address your concerns. We're just a recommending body. That's it. And based on our recommendation, we make our recommendation based on the information we're given. You do have another process that you can follow through. I would urge you, I implore you to call your county councils to get involved and take it from there. With that being said, I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman, in regards to this application number 25-5008, city service request.
5007.
5007, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the wrong one. That we send this to city council for approval.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Matthews, have a second? Commissioner Stevens. Okay. Any other discussion from the commission? Anybody? All right. All those in favor of the motion for approval of city service requests has been seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand. And like sign opposed, and it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you for everybody who came and spoke tonight. All right. Item N, this is another utility service request. This is application number 25-50008. City service request for tax parcel number 135-18-01-001. The owner is Aiken County. This is on Gun Range Road. Their current zoning is a rural development, and they are looking to put a fire training center at this location with the conditions listed. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on behalf of this? Are you gentlemen? Oh, good. Come on.
Hello, good evening, commissioners. I'm Justin Wood with AECOM engineering firm, working here on behalf of the county. And this is, go ahead.
Todd Bobing, also with AECOM, an engineer there on behalf of the county as well.
And so we're here to provide any information, background on the Aiken County Fire Training Center, which is a multi-phase facility that's planned for the county's volunteer fire force, as well as the city, volunteer fire, or I'm sorry, the city's fire department to conduct training activities at. The city's actually a partner with the county on this project, and so, this is something that's moving forward this year, hopefully to construction this summer. So we're here before you, obviously, for the utility service request, and we can walk you through some of the site features. I'll have Todd do that if you'd like. That would be helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
Cool. So this right here, what you're seeing is phase 1 and phase 2. It's the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do. As you can see, there's 2 entryways into a approximately 145 space parking lot. Kind of as you move farther up, you see a proposed classroom building where they're going to do all their instruction there. You kind of move farther into the back, you have this big concrete pad that is used for training with our proposed 4-story metal fire training tower. As you can see in the back as well is our proposed detention pond, so all the pollutants and everything will follow the SCDS standards. Again, this is phase 2 kind of overall. What's going to be built first is the entryway on the east side or the west side, and the fire training tower, as well as a small parking lot where the city and water, where we are requesting, there's an existing pump station that is right directly west of our proposed access. So we're planning on, in our phase 1, stubbing out our sewer service for a building. It's anticipated it'll be either an in-house classroom bathroom or an external bathroom, yet to be decided, but we're going to go ahead and stub that out in our phase 1 development. And as far as water, there's an existing water main on Gun Range Road that we are planning on tying into to come service our site. 2 fire hydrants used for training in our phase 1, and then we'll be capped out for future phase 2 development. And in our phase 2, the plan is to continue that fire line to make a loop into the main on Wire Road. Any
Questions?
Yeah, just for clarification, I see potential phase 3 development. Is what I'm looking at, that whole thing is phase 1?
That whole thing is phase 1 and 2 combined. Phase 1
and
will just
2
be
combined, okay.
small parking lot, the fire training tower, detention pond in the back, and our utility services.
Okay.
What is the intention for phase 3?
Phase 3, it's kind of in the county's court. They're trying to spitball. It might be a driver training facility. They have yet to decide, but that whole parcel is theirs, and so that is a potential development out there, but they have yet to decide what is going out there currently.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Anybody here else to speak on behalf of this application? How about anybody against this application? Any comments? Okay, commissioners, I'll consider a motion.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, for application number 25-50008, requesting city services for tax parcel 135-18-01-001. I say we pass it to city council for approval.
Okay, motion for approval. Commissioner Clarkson for a second.
With all these houses and construction, I'm hoping we have a way to stop fires, so.
All right, any other discussion from the commission? There's a motion on the table and a second for approval of city service requests. Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Like sign opposed, and it passes unanimously. Okay, you guys have been patient tonight. Last 2 applications for this meeting. This is application number 25-20009. This is an annexation request, and they're asking to be annexed into planned residential, and so they have to submit a concept plan, which is presented under application number 25-22001. This is for the tax parcel number 122-15-01-001 and 122-10-13-006. Is the applicant here tonight to speak on behalf of this? Yes, sir.
Todd Bailey, 2569 Trade Center Drive, Evans.
Give us a summary of what your intentions are out here, sir.
We got multi-product community. We've got townhomes in the northwest corner. Those will be larger townhomes than normal. They'll have single-car garages and parking. We will have on the single-family side, we'll have a buffer between those and single-family. On the single-family, it's showing, those are all shown as 50-foot lots. We'll actually alternate those some to where we can move a property line 5 feet, and you can create a 45 and a 55, so we can have 3 different price points and 3 different styles. At the front corner, off Thoroughbred, there's an amenity package. There'll be a pool, pickleball courts, and a gathering facility, whatever you want to call that. We do have walking trails. You can see lightly in there where the new connector road is coming. Where our cul-de-sac is, that is pretty much on grade with the connector road. And we will remove that cul-de-sac once the connector road's done, tie in there, talk to the engineers. I've got copies of that with me. And then we'll have 2 other entrance and exits. We are annexing because we're contiguous and we need water and sewer.
Okay, thank you, sir. Questions for the applicant?
I see 3 entrances in total. Right now, I know the cul-de-sac will be another entrance.
Correct.
So the other 2, I guess I could, one by the townhomes. I guess they're both.
The one by the townhomes, I've sent a letter to the registered agent, have not received back. We would love to tie into that, but we don't have access to do that without.
Sable Drive, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
That road was held short of the property line for, I guess, a reason. So I don't have access to that right now. I would be happy to do that and put it in there.
I just want to make sure they're 2-way, what do we call the entrances?
Ingress, egress?
Yes. And, with the median in the center.
Okay.
And that one does not look, and I don't think there was a waiver on asking to make that entrance that way. But I know that's a requirement that we like to see in the city.
That's fine. We can do that on that other one. We can slide those units over and make that happen.
Sir, are you aware of the possible conditions 1 through 10 that are listed on this application? Have you studied those?
Made aware of it today.
Okay. You're asking for a waiver for the having more than 30% of the garage front facing, meaning you want more than what's required. You have not asked for a waiver from the requirement that all lots 30 feet or less have drives that do not exceed 12 feet in width. So there are some issues with your application, given this.
That was on the townhomes, and I told him that if leaving those as 12 feet is fine. We didn't have a problem with that.
Okay.
We just hadn't had a chance to redraw it.
Well,
The 30%, what I was understood was on the townhomes. I don't know how you could.
It's a townhouse.
I don't know how you can not do front entry garages on the townhomes.
I've seen it done. The density, there's a note in our application that for us to note that a portion of the undisturbed area of the property is in a flood zone, as slated as the location of the second phase of the Powderhouse Connector Roadway project. What section is that? Where is that?
Over on the other side of
The flood
Okay.
floodplain's all the way at the bottom. We're not in it.
Other comments?
Well, you've got this undisturbed area, you've got the proposed stormwater management, and then there's obviously space between the connector and the development itself.
Correct.
Is the intention that all of that remain open space?
Yes, with the exception of some detention in there, and the connector road does not have their detention set, so we've been in discussion on taking part of that to the right of the connector and creating a larger regional detention facility right there that the connector road would use in addition to us.
And you're aware that when it comes to those open space requirements, it has to be either passive or active recreation. So it can't just be, you know,
A retention
a
Ponds,
pond,
retention
things
ponds.
like that.
Yeah.
So as drawn, this represents 20% open space, with at least half of that being for
As
passive or
drawn
active
represents
use.
40, but some of that
No,
won't be
for active
included.
or passive use.
Yeah.
Where
Pardon?
where on here is active or passive use?
Well, we got sidewalks on both sides of the road that count for, I guess that's the active. We've got the buffers in between. We've got some parks, and then around the, to the right of the detention, I'm sorry, as looking at it, to the right of the amenities coming in, some of that, there's walking trails all the way through there. So we don't plan on clear cutting. There's some banks in there. When you come in, you're gonna have to, you know, you gotta cut some dirt to be able to level your spot. But down in there, we plan on having, not plan on, we will have walking trails and stuff going in there. There's a potential, and it's depending on how they're doing it, the connector road from our entrance for the single family, from that part up, the road's gonna be raised as part of the plan with the connector road. So instead of that going down in the bottom, it's actually gonna come up. So coming from Powder House, that road will stop. So you won't go from Powder House all the way through now. Powder House will stop and dead end, and then underneath the connector road. So the connector road is gonna be raised. So depending on how high the connector road is, we're trying to get some walking trails to go up underneath there too. But we're not planning on
Into
clear-
this undisturbed
clear
area
cutting
on the
it all.
other side of the road?
I'm sorry?
Into that undisturbed area on the other side of the road is
Correct.
what you're saying, there'd be a trail under the raised.
As long as we can safely get up underneath there.
Right.
There's also buffers. Are those shown on here, those 10-foot buffers that need to surround it?
I think all the buffers are on there.
Where are they at? Where will they be located at?
Between the townhomes and the houses.
Or, I mean, there's a buffer
And then I
here.
think he wants
Here.
where the houses that back up to Thoroughbred, we made those lots deeper. We can shrink those lots in to put more of a buffer right there on Thoroughbred. And we have room if Thoroughbred needs to widen, we can contribute some right of way if we need to.
Yeah, on the southern border, you show no buffer on this design.
On the very bottom.
Yeah, along your property line.
Right, backing up to residential, we have to have it.
Yes, sir.
We can shrink that up too then.
Put a buffer in,
Yeah.
a landscape buffer.
No, if you have to, yeah.
Yeah. Cameron, two things I had.
Yes, sir.
One is the proposed pool in the amenities area. It looks like it's right on the road. I mean, it looks like you have 34.8 acres. It probably would make sense to move that pool over a bit, give it some privacy without cars going back and forth in front of it. Move that over whatever 50 or more feet. Looks like you got plenty of room. There's no reason why you couldn't do that.
Well, there's slope right in there.
I'm sorry?
There's a slope in that area.
Well, I mean, you're mass grading this whole site, so I think you can.
Isn't that area
work
what
out
you said
your-
was going to be
you
used
mass
for
grade
active
another
or passive
50
use?
feet. Is it?
Well, it depends on how far, if you take it back 50
Well, I mean,
feet.
but the point I'm making is you're saying it's too unpassable to build, but it's good enough for active use.
No, I can take a tractor and build on the whole thing.
Okay, well then you can do what he said and move the pool.
You're mass grading the whole site, so.
He's asking you if you're amenable.
Tell me, I mean, I didn't know y'all were going into details where the pool has to be located.
Well, sir, you're bringing. Hold on, you're bringing a large development,
Right.
and it's very tight, and so we have some questions.
Understand?
There's some things that you've got some more work to do, in my opinion. But we're here to consider this based on what you've drawn, and there's not a lot of details on here, so I'm not doing it for applause. I'm just asking.
Well, no, I got
what
this-
he's saying. If you're going to grade this whole
I got
thing,
this at 11 o'clock today, emailed to you.
well, that's not our problem.
Put it off
No, it's from you. The responses that I got back were from you. I got 11
Okay.
o'clock
Well,
today.
we're basing this based on this application we have, and this is, we saw this delivered to us on Friday, and this is all we have. I'm not telling you that you need to have working drawings.
Okay.
But there's just some gray area that we're just trying to get through, and we're making some recommendations. Obviously there's some conditions here that you're not aware of, that you should be when you're applying for this, in my opinion.
All right.
Any other comments?
I just have a question for clarification. I'm not really sure. In the background, the application is proposing a 479 lot subdivision, and then it says consisting of 221 attached, 259 detached. That's 480. So I was just trying to, this is a typo or what?
Thank you, I got
It's
that too.
258 and 221. It should be
Okay, so it's a typo. 258.
279, or 279. What? 479, I'm sorry.
What's the number?
What
You
page?
have
The numbers are 221. It's on the background.
That's
You're
on
looking
the
at 479
first page on the
lot
background.
subdivision.
Consistent
Then you
of
got 221 attached and 259 detached, which is a total of 480. So I'm just, it's a typo here. I'm missing something. I don't know.
That's
He just
480.
he just trying to, these are just for
58,
administrative.
259 and 221.
So is that right? Is that right?
480.
So 480? Okay.
I mean,
Now, the plan,
that's the most. We may lose some lots,
I
moving
understand,
stuff
I understand,
around.
but just for
Chairman,
considering the application, we want to be as accurate as we can. So,
That's what's shown on here.
okay.
the plan itself has 258, single family,
Okay, why isn't it? Okay.
Single family, yeah.
and 221.
It
So
says
that's-
259 on the,
479.
So the typewritten page is wrong. It's 258. Okay, Mr. Chairman, again, I'm just now looking at the plan in a little more detail. The, as far as the community center, the recreation center, you have, besides the pool, which I first came to mind, you also have a substantial parking lot and a building. I assume that's the recreation building or a clubhouse building.
Correct.
You got that really, again, tucked in there right next to 4 or so homes and across the street from 4 or so homes. Again, with all this acreage you have here, there's really no reason you couldn't spread that out a bit. Move that pool parking, which is very intensive. There's a lot of cars going in and out all the time on that clubhouse parking and the pool parking and the pool building. I mean, there's no reason, looking at this plan, that you just can't move those into a more secluded area. My other comment on terms of my typical comment on road exit points, the each exit onto Thoroughbred should have exiting should be a left and then a separate right lane, a right turn slot. So a one left turn car doesn't back up the whole traffic on the 2 intersections out to Thoroughbred. Okay,
That's where we may have to take those 3 units and slide them over.
I'm sorry?
We may have to take those 3 buildings and slide them.
Yeah, I don't see,
5-10 feet.
I don't see any problems.
So what do we do as a body here, will he make these changes and then bring it to you, or, I mean, there's a lot of changes that need to be done.
Let's, go ahead.
I mean, whatever he does, if he can make the changes, then I guess bring it to council before, first reading of council. Or it just depends on what you as a body.
Sam, let's get some comments from the
Okay.
public, and then we can discuss it
sorry.
after a motion. I understand where you're going with that. Any other comments for the applicant from the commission? Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody here to speak in favor? I didn't think so. All right. Listen, it's getting late, but I appreciate y'all's patience. So I want to give everybody a chance to speak. So we'll start on this first row here. Anybody? Okay. Yeah. You've had 2 turns. Let's. Thank you. He does, but he's had a lot of turns. I'm gonna give some of these folks that hadn't had a chance, and he's gonna get his 5 minutes. I promise you.
they may say what he wants to say.
All right, good evening, Fred Angel, 285 South Bank Drive. I I know we have more people that'll talk. I represent the whole body of the Mallard Lake HOA as the president and treasurer. We're right across the street on the other side of Thoroughbred Run Road. There's a lot of talking points I guess we want to bring up. We've mentioned previously other developments outside in the county's purview. This, if annexed in, would be in the city's purview. And there's been sentiment by the city or the city planning commission about the overabundance of building. To put 500 homes in this location, this close to the city proximity, is ridiculous, okay? We have a lot of problems with traffic on the south side of town. This is right near Whiskey and Pine Log. It's clear the tie-in to the existing townhome community on the left via Sable is not, and tie-in the Centennial is absurd. You would have to contend with traffic consisting of South Aiken High School, Millbrook Baptist, the intersection of Centennial, or I believe it's Corporate Parkway, and Whiskey is horrendous at that light as it is. If you're adding 500 homes to this location, you're only exacerbating that source. Another point of contact is Robin Road at Pine Log. There's no red light there at the the Waffle House. You're already at risk of getting a T-bone now with the traffic trying to get out on the Pine Log Road. You add even more traffic coming from the back way trying to get on the Pine Log. That's a mess as itself. Besides that, really, Thoroughbred Run Road is used by residents in my community, the adjacent community, to recreational activities, just to walk their pets, whatever. I have yet to see any improvements. Maybe it hasn't been proposed to the city, but if they did do indeed improve this to be developed, there's going to have to be some substantial infrastructure improvements on Thoroughbred Run to not put pedestrians at risk. There's no utilities from the perspective of lighting, or very minimal. So overall, I will defer to some subject matter experts on some additional topics, but just from the traffic piece alone, this is not sustainable. And I'd be more akin to requesting the developer to change from a high density to maximize your yield on this parcel to, lots with acreage that sustain value and not make it like other developments like off of Bettis Academy Road and Graniteville, where they're slapped up against each other with no value and really just wiping out the landscape as it exists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna go back down the road here on this side. Anybody on this road right here? Anywhere? Yes, sir.
I'm Dr. Bob Van Pelt. I live 303 South Bank. I'm in Mallard Lake subdivision, okay? Appreciate the time to do this. All right, I can reiterate what Fred said, the traffic. We have Vieira Apartments right there too. And if you know Vieira Apartments, the congestion that you face trying to come out onto East Pine Log, trying to come out on Corporate to Whiskey, it's a nightmare multiple times during the day, okay? So I won't get off more of that, but also the safety issue. Not only that, I want to ask, again, you would have to approve water as well and sewer, okay? I am a geologist. I have a hydrogeology degree, 34 years Savannah Riverside in environmental restoration. I'm an adjunct professor at USC Aiken, so I could speak to this topic. Do you have studies out there showing the water capacity, availability for this place? You have over there Sanctuary, that's over on the other side of Powerhouse, single homes. You have developments going across from Lowe's Food, okay? You have now the old mall, you have all the apartments that are being built over here. You keep adding on to Whiskey. Where's this water gonna come from? As a geologist, I'll tell you this, all right? Natural recharge for these deeper aquifers doesn't come in the area of Aiken. It comes upstate South Carolina. When we have rain today up there, it takes tens of years for that water to get down several hundred feet, 400 feet plus, and make its way down. So every drop you take out today, okay, you're diminishing that aquifer. So keep that in mind when you keep approving things left and right here, all right? There's not enough water over time. You're gonna realize that. The second thing is, not that I'm gonna live in that cotton field, but that cotton field has 20 years plus of pesticide, herbicide application on a yearly basis. We have seen it, we have smelled it. You'd have to ask the owner how far back that goes, okay? As a scientist practicing at Savannah Riverside, I can tell you pesticides stay in the soil indefinitely, okay? They don't evaporate. The guy puts them into the soil on top of the cotton, and then he tills it up when they're finished with the cotton, okay? That's in the soil. You need to understand what level of pesticides, herbicides are in that soil before you put residents in there, okay? The state of South Carolina doesn't require you to sample that. They would require you if you had a septic system and you're converting from agricultural to residential. But I have friends, a local DHEC, who said, listen, it would be best practice for them to sample that area to determine whether there's any risk to the public living in that area. And that's the up 4 feet. Because if you have concentrations of pesticides above what's approved by EPA in the state of South Carolina, you run the risk of cancer in those residents. When they put gardens in there and their kids playing in the soil, okay? Be aware of that, okay? Because that would affect the developer, and it could come back to the city as well, you knowing that, okay? Thanks a lot for your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll go right on down the line. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Ronald Matthews from 138 Mallard Lake Drive. My dream was to come to America, to come to a safe haven for myself and my family. We've been here since 2000. We are now naturalized citizens. To bring such a development into our area, it's going to be high risk for the nature as well as environmental aspect. My question is to Todd. What is the average price of these townhouses going to go for?
He can come up after.
Average home around us is $265,000 up to $325,000. From what we heard, bringing such an establishment into our area, we're going to drop our price of our homes. So I don't see how it's viable to put such an establishment in. Reduction of homes, yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, the developer, all he sees is, man, these amount of homes that go in, big dollar signs come up. I understand from the Aiken city, great revenue for taxes, perfect. You're going to put a burden on everything. As it is now, Savannah Riverside, when they let out and they come home, what's the main route? They come up Whiskey Road. They either branch off Whiskey Road onto Powder House. There must be at least 1,000 cars a day traveling back through that area. We've seen numerous accidents. People have been almost run over, cyclists that got hit, and now you want to put a burden on our infrastructure. I don't think it's fair. Thank you for hearing my statement.
Thank you. All right, anybody else on this side of the room? Nobody? Okay. Hang on, right behind you. You be next. Y'all flip a coin.
You mentioned that it would be a good idea.
Can you just your name in there? Thank you.
292 South Bank Drive, Mallard.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Debbie.
You mentioned that it would be a good idea or what was the next step after this, to go to the city council, various commissions. But I'm saying the right thing to do is next to come to people. And after the long haul of do it right with Project Pascalis, I think we learned 2 years ago that the best thing is to work together. It's not a two-part system with developer and the city. It's a three-part system where we collaborate. And I was really excited to be able to practice what I've been preaching with this project. But I went in to meet a couple times with Richard in planning and took in visuals of, things to think about. And I'm really disappointed to see that even though we had a 2-hour conversation that was really great, He was very positive, very open. Nothing changed from what I brought in, nothing. And the comment was, and I'm sure it's not just Richard, it's general comment, is that we can't tell the developers what to do. What? That's ridiculous. Of course we can. The city is missing a standard for the number of houses on a piece of property. I'm not talking about codes and zoning. I'm talking about aesthetics. This is like a projects. I came here from New York, not to live in a neighborhood that is filled with 500 high-density houses that you can't even see above, that are going to cause problems. You know, right now we can go in the backyard and look up at the sky at night, and there's not very much light. But that's all going to change big time. Are people paying attention to what kind of lights there would be? And also, is all that going to be zoned residential, or is some of it going to be mixed? Nobody has said that. This area up here at the top on Thoroughbred, the part that has no buffer, that's my house up there. That's my legacy to my children. How would you like to live with that? Have you taken a ride down Graniteville and seen those preposterous, horrible houses? That's what that's going to look like for me. If a developer was taking into consideration what's the best thing that we can do for the lives of Aiken, not for my pocket. If he was thinking about that, he would be thinking, okay, how can we make this development meld with the things around it? Maybe Mallard Lake sets a standard for the size of the property, at least for single-family houses. But I can't believe this has gotten this far. And I just got to say one more thing for the record. If you take a look at this, and Richard and I talked about this, on the right-hand side in the open field, on the topographical chart, there are concentric circles. There's concentric circles. Nobody's even talked about those. It's not even a precedent. There's many Indian mounds in Aiken around here. And it happens that where those concentric circles are is where the road goes through. I want that on the record. Did anybody think of looking at that or see it or notice it? Could you please make sure that they do? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, you guys. I'm Catherine Livingston. I live at 131 Sable Drive. And I was horrified when I saw this plan. These townhomes are going to be right up against our commons area. And it's really going to destroy the peace of our little neighborhood. And I am begging, I don't know if you are the right people to beg, but I'm begging, please don't connect our community to this. Please don't, because we already suffer so much traffic from the high school, from UPS workers. We now have SRS in the corporate center behind us. We have traffic from there. And we have very small streets in our little subdivision that we cannot walk our dogs without having to jump out of the way because the people are so rude that they don't even stop at the stop signs coming through there. So please don't connect us to this monstrosity.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Jones. I live at 122 Fotinia Drive. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. And I don't think I can speak as well as the people from Mallard Lake. They went through a lot of information. I won't take up a whole lot of time. The learned gentleman from at the college, not gonna be able to back all that stuff up. I mean, these guys, they got a lot to say. But we live there, you know? And we look at this stuff going on over here. The stuff that you don't see is an issue. I mean, we see this cloud of building and stuff all jumbled together. But what you don't see is the road up there where Thoroughbred Run goes to. Everything that's forgotten is off the side of the screen. Everything that's forgotten over to the left, to the north, to the east, all that's forgotten. It's out of this picture because that's the only thing that's important right now. But I'm telling you, the road that connects right there, there is traffic. When you come out of this 1, 2, and their proposed third, which I may have to stand out there in front of the bulldozer. The traffic that goes through there, which connects from over on Pine Log, is a cut through. Some people know about it. They sneak through from Pine Log to get over to Corporate Parkway to get out to Whiskey Road. There's a lot.
I've been guilty of that.
So you're probably one of the people I've gone like this to when you're going past.
Don't like that.
There's a lot of fast traffic. While she's walking her dog, she's talking about behind me.
I understand. I understand.
There's a lot of fast traffic that comes through there. The kids from high school, okay, you know, they're going to drive like they do. But that's a cut through. Guess what's going to happen when you put 600, 400, 500, 600, however many houses we're doing here, 500 houses. Guess what's going to happen to that? That's going to multiply that. You know, it's going to probably add an additional 1,000 cars down our road a day. And I'm not exaggerating. You start thinking about close to 500 homes going in, coming back out each day. If they want to get to Whiskey Road, guess where they're going to go? They're going to hang a left. They're going to go 1 road down or 2 roads down, right through the middle of Sandalwood, and to go over to Corporate Parkway and come out. This kind of traffic, this kind of building in our area here, it's not right. And I understand the gentleman wanting to make money. I understand business. I understand it. But that's not right for our area. It's not.
Understood.
Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
My name is Shamay Matthews. I'm from 138 Mallard Lake Drive. I'm also with the Home Association over here. I just want to let you know, 20 years ago when we bought our home, the developer, we actually bought his house. And what sold us buying our property was that it was going to be a gated community with a pool, a clubhouse, walking trails. Have you seen what Mallard Lake has? It doesn't have a gated community. We don't have a pool. We don't have a clubhouse. And we don't have a walking trail. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, my man. Going for the trifecta tonight.
Chairman Reynolds, I appreciate it. Dave Collin, 2188 Catholic Court. I'm also a property owner adjacent to this proposed development here. I think the key point that I want to repeat is from the gentleman that first spoke to you and talked about volume with regard to traffic. And not to belabor the point, but just to be on record, taking into consideration then when Powder House Road was tremendously blocked by Helene, that road serving as a main artery for many areas of our local community in that area, you could just draw concentric circles, that created a tremendous amount of disruption, not only in services, but in people getting back and forth, emergency folks being able to get in. What I want you to understand is the sheer volume that we're adding to the Powder House thoroughfare, whether it be the Powder House connector coming in the future or not. We have several, and some folks who are aware of the real estate footprint can probably point out to better. But I count at least 5 or 6 within the not College Acres, but within the Powder House Whiskey Chucker Creek kind of area there. And that's what we're talking about, behind Cracker Barrel and this farm land here, aside from the excellent discussion of geology and hydrology. Aiken, in my humble opinion, needs to really put the brakes on, and I would humbly ask your professional wisdom here as you represent the people in your service on this commission, that you consider the volume of what is being proposed. Because the citizens, as the young lady here elaborated, it's that third element in the project. The city governance, cooperating with the developers who have the vision, and then the people that reside. That third leg of that trifecta is getting a little bit of short shrift here. We're on a pair of crutches, and we should be on a tripod. We should be supporting the entire community and all of the services that we pay for with our tax. We understand we could get some more taxes here to increase the base. But if we look over there at Sanctuary, those are single-family homes. They got a little bit of arm room. I'm not even sure we could get arm room here. It's a little bit tighter, it looks to me, than Trolley Run. So the volume of traffic getting in and out is, I believe, your primary concern. You can bring services in there, you can dig and stuff like that. You're going to have to increase thoroughbred. And the gentleman here was quite a bit, in my opinion, vague with regard to, well, you know, we can just kind of move stuff a little here and there. Thoroughbred Run is a dirt road coming downhill. It goes directly through lowland and swamp. Woodwardia on the other side is absolutely swampland. It is lowland. It is wet. It is always wet. It is tremendously thick. If this developer proposes that these people enjoy the swampland for the walking trails down to the right, that is a misguided intent. And I strongly urge you to question that aspect of this development. We also talked about water and water services. The new development plant that we have coming online, that hydrology has to work for several of these developments that you've had put before you tonight. And I would just ask you humbly, with all due respect, insist that the hydrology be clear to you, that it is capable and that it does not merge or other words, in other ways, deflect onto some other amount of property, be it commercial or residential. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I do, hold on just a second, you can come right up. I do want to make a comment. This planning commission bases a lot of our decisions on the comprehensive plan that is provided by the city. And that's updated every 5 and 10 years, okay? And what the comprehensive plan is, for those who don't know it, it's a book that shows the growth and the potential growth and the goals of the city for the whole city limits. And that book is built upon comments from the taxpayers, from the city. And if you don't participate in those surveys, those discussions, because it's well advertised when it comes for updating, and so we as a commission have to base our decisions, although I'm not disagreeing with anything that anybody said one way or the other, but I'm telling you, we base our decisions on a lot of things, but also at the end of the day on the comprehensive plan. If the comprehensive plan shows massive growth over here and their development's coming, then that's what we have to rely on, other than the hydrology and the engineering. I get all that, but the comprehensive plan directs us on where growth is going to be focused in this city, whether it's up US 1, up on the south side. I went to high school at South Aiken. I know exactly what's going on over there, but I'm just telling you, if you have real passion, which you have, you need to carry that through with the city when they do the comprehensive planning. And if you're this passionate about it, they can revise the comprehensive plan so that we have something that's more congruent to perhaps what you want. And I'm not saying we're going to base that on tonight's decision, but as an overall, I would tell you to participate when the city asks to participate and voice your comments there, not just at these applications when it's on your front doorstep, because that's what's happening here. It's on your front doorstep. And you know, matter of fact, quite honestly, just for your information, this developer's got a density of 4.5 units per acre. He's allowed 12 units per acre. That's what he's allowed.
And I think there's some misconception that this image creates, because what you're looking at is a very tight community, but what you're, I think, maybe not seeing is that a quarter of this tract is not developed at all. So
It's actually not allowed to be. It's in the development plan, sir. It's not allowed to be. It is restricted.
Well, let's.
the point is, I mean, that's the point, though. I mean, as Chairman mentioned, the density allowed under the zoning at issue is much greater than what you actually see in this diagram, and you have a substantial portion of this tract, whether it be for frogs and leeches. It may not be for your walking, but it does provide a service to the environment by being undisturbed. But that is why this looks a little more scary than it might actually be, because a substantial portion of that is actually left natural. Yes, there's a highway going through it. I understand that, and that's another part of the story. But the image itself is a little bit skewed because of how much land is set aside as undeveloped. The entire tract is substantially greater than where the roads are.
Just real quick, since we're talking about planning commission, our purpose, etc. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up that we are allowed as planning commissioners to make judgment calls based on our own opinions and thoughts. It's not just rubber stamping the comprehensive plan. If so, we wouldn't be up here. It would just be Miss Moultrie and her staff. So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up.
All right, let's jump on here. She had a comment.
I'm Gail Wilkinson. I live at 1614 Powder House Road. I live in front of Woodwardia Glen, and 3 houses down is Thoroughbred Run. Behind my house are woods, and one of the things that I think about is I have been to city council meetings where they talked about this land being as unused land, but I wonder about, and I'm probably a naturalist, I'm a math and science teacher, and I think about the deer that I see all the time, the owls, the hawks, the red cockaded woodpeckers. I have 25 longleaf pines in my yard, and salamanders and stuff. I don't know whether there's been an environmental study done on on this, but also, as he mentioned, the pesticides. But just as a school teacher, I'm wondering, where are all these children going to school? I mean, we've got South Aiken High School, we've got Millbrook, we have Chucker Creek, where I'm currently a math specialist, and I'm wondering where these people are going to school. And I did do the math as far as square acreage, and at 43,560 square feet per acre, and you have, I think that he said they were going to have 500 and something residences, and it ends up being 923 square feet, whereas I have an acre yard. So it should be, what I plead for is consistency in like Mallard Lakes and where I live, which my house was built in 1963, but just consider this high density stuff. And then you connect it with the Powder House connector, which is supposed to come through right up the next dirt road. And they've got, 700 more residences. And then you've got the stuff at the mall. And I'm wondering, that's a decrease in traffic? So just consider this. And there are all sorts of whether you're going to give them water or not give them water. But I do say every time it rains really hard, all that to the left, all that is flooded, wet, mosquito-y, just kind of nice nature. But thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Diane Holler, and I live at 20 Panorama Place in Aiken. That's in the Mallard Lake development. I'm going to make this short. The first application is for annexation. The city of Aiken does not need to annex any more Aiken County properties. The city cannot find and keep enough employees to assume the care of all of these new annexed properties. As far as this development, Thoroughbred Run Road is a partially paved dirt road, narrow, 2-lane, minimal shoulders. It's not suitable for construction traffic needed to construct this large development. And in addition, my living room, I measured, is exactly 30 feet from Thoroughbred Run right away. The noise, the dust, the construction would severely impact my quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other against? All right, any comments? Okay. I'm gonna entertain a motion for this application, both applications actually, for going from residential multifamily development into plan PR with the conditions listed. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, should we, I guess, have a motion first and have discussion on that?
Correct.
I'm sorry.
Could we do the annexation separate, or is it all one lump sum?
It's O and B.
No, the annexation could be separate.
First is to annex and then
Yeah.
to rezone. Is that
I
the-
would just like to see.
So the, just for clarity, the zoning to PR happens with the annexation. So you have an annexation that would place a PR zoning, and then the next one application is just for the concept plan approval.
Well, if I can, Mr. Chairman,
Please.
you know, this land is not going to stay land long. Somebody is going to come and build houses on it. There's no question about it. It's happening. However, I feel personally, I think there's a lot more work that the developer can do to make it a little more Aiken-y. And I would like to propose that we go ahead and annex in it, but request that the concept plan come back to us. That is what I would like to see done. Now, I don't know if that can happen.
What's proper protocol, Mario?
Yeah.
I think these
Also,
applications
might not want that.
These two they go hand in hand.
They do go
they're two applications, but annexation and concept plan really go hand in hand. And I think to be clean, you make your motion.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application 25-20009, annexation request, and application number 25-22001, concept plan for tax parcel number 122-15-01-001, and 122-10-13-006, current zoning RD, proposed zoning PR, I make a motion that we do not recommend to City Council for approval.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Commissioner Clarkson to deny this application as listed, and then a second from Commissioner Erb. Now, discussion amongst the commissioners.
Yeah, I have a few things, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, first we talked about density, and you know I keep harping on this. The PR zone, while it says you allow up to 12 units per acre, it does say that each concept plan stands on its own merits. No entitlement to either maximum permitted density is allowed. So you has to stand on its merits. And it also says that the lands rezoned to PR should relate approximately to surrounding development in size and architectural design and dwelling unit density. So my personal opinion is that there's too many lots on the property. It's too dense of a property. The lot sizes are very, very small. I do have to correct one of the homeowners. He said to add around 1,000 cars to the
thoroughbred run road, but it's not. It's going to add 4,000 cars to the road. It's around 2,000 cars in and 2,000 cars out. The traffic study that I saw here is really lacking. Again, we're not going to get too involved in traffic, but it just looked at the road itself, and the road's 22 feet wide, and you're adding 4,000 cars. That's just inadequate. There's a floodplain on the property, but they don't show the floodplain on the property. Is the floodplain, the homes in the floodplain? I mean, you're not showing it. There's a note here that says approximate location of Powder House connector right-of-way, and it's kind of amorphous lines in the middle of the open space. Now, you got to know where it is, and it's got to be shown on the plan. We have to know where it is in relationship to these new homes, and is it going through the floodplain? So that's not shown on the plans. Again, there's severe lack of buffers along thoroughbred to the homes. The home should not be right on top of the street, which is, again, very narrow. It's only 22 feet wide. If anything gets built on the property, that thoroughbred, I think it was mentioned before, should be improved, at least from the center line of the road over to include a proper width of the road for the cars. And the traffic study should also look at what happens on either side, and it doesn't. The traffic study just says it's going to have a good level of service for the cars immediately on thoroughbred. So I think there's a lot of problems with this application as we see it, and I'm personally not in favor. I think that's what the motion goes.
Yeah, I think if this property was out further in the county, as some of the other ones were this evening, you might get a little more leeway from this commission on that. But this is a particularly high traffic area, high density already. I'm not faulting you for trying to get the best investment return that you can, but particularly in this area, I think you got to be a lot more thoughtful in how you present these drawings and these applications, because it's not going to get any easier for you as you go through city council, I don't think. But you really got to understand the codes, what's required on buffers, and you're building in the middle of a surrounding neighborhood that a lot of these folks have been there for 30, 40, 50 years. I don't oppose growth or developments, but I do have a problem with trying to fast track what it seems to me fast tracking of just throwing some stuff on the paper and see if it'll get by. So that's my heartburn with this. And I agree with Commissioner Messina and the motion on the table. Other comments from the commission?
I would just say, go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner Madden.
One thing I would say, I thank you all for your comments. Thank you for staying here so long and addressing our concerns tonight. Appreciate it.
And I would lastly comment. I mean, this is, again, I certainly personally have no problem with growth as long as it's done appropriately. And this is a track, given its location and especially with this connector coming in, that should be a track that is developed. But I think just these developers should take note. If this many people are upset about the manner in which it's being presented, this clearly is not in line with how Aiken wants to see itself grow. And I think the way to look at that is not look at what's happening in the county, because this mirrors a lot of what we've seen that we don't have any control over, but look at what exists and what makes Aiken special and try to mirror that.
Also, I do share the comment about potential pesticide contamination, and there's really no reason why it should be your due diligence. Any developer would do this, is to do soil testing beforehand, because if you may have to remove some soil, you may have to bring in fill to cover the soil. Yep. We don't want children playing in this, so that you should know up front. You don't want to know that at the last minute. So I think that should be a condition. Obviously, we're looking for denial on this, but for any future application, there should be a soil report.
There should be a geotech report.
Geotechnical review on this subject.
No, man. We're. You can speak to us after the meeting. We're tired.
It's early.
All right. Any other comments from the commission? Okay. So we have a motion on the table for this annexation and concept plan to deny to city council. And seconded. We'll take a vote. All those in favor for denial, raise your hand. And it's unanimous. Motion for adjournment. All those in favor for adjournment, raise your hand.